We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach and the bench deep. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunker down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Found guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. The tape.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. The
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film God Network on a fabulous Monday evening. It is Cinco de Mayo, apparently. I guess that's what the 5th of May means. But for Georgia fans, it's a little bit more important than that. It is the Jared Curtis commitment date, and he made it official today. Chooses the University of Georgia over Oregon, and we'll obviously talk about that tonight. We'll talk about Oregon's backup plans. We'll talk about Sharon Moore's decision to suspend himself. We'll also talk about the SEC pressure gauge. Apparently, somebody's mapped out the entire 2025 season.
Yeah, they've mapped out the postseason at least.
Sounds a little bit early for me, but hey, I'm down to talk about it. I told you SEC pressure gauge is getting talked about tonight. Have defenses retaken the backbone of college football? Every time I think about the backbone, I think about the movie The Campaign, where Will Ferrell's always out there like, world tilt-a-world workers are this nation's backbone. So we'll talk about the defensive backbone of college football tonight as well. And Miami getting up off the mat, pretending to play ball. So we'll talk about that. But obviously, I want to ask you guys to hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff, boys. No need to bury the lead. Let's talk about it. Normally, guys, we split this up, national hour, local hour. It's going to be kind of a osmosis of both right here, a little combination of both right here as we talk about the news of the day with Jared Curtis announcing he is recommitting to the University of Georgia. Was the first commit in the 2026 class for the University of Georgia all the way back, I believe, in June of 2023. Does that sound right?
I think it was earlier than that.
About that, yeah.
A minute ago. Opens his commitment back, or opens his recruitment process back up, I think, last summer. Goes through the entire recruitment process over again, sets a top 5 that includes South Carolina, I think obviously Oregon, Georgia, and a couple others. Who was in that mix there? I can't even remember. Either way, like 3 days later, cuts it to 2. I'm only focusing on Oregon and Georgia. Comes down to the wire today. It was a coin flip as early as this morning. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knowing where he was going to go. I believe what I was told in terms of they had to shoot 2 commitment videos, did the Curtis camp. And if you look at the commitment video, the only thing that had to be changed was that last 5 seconds of him basically saying, blessed, excited to be in Athens, go Dogs, all that good stuff. But Georgia wins out today, boys. Initial thoughts when you guys saw the news and broke the news today while I was out, messing around at a high school football practice.
Certainly one of the biggest commitments I can remember for the University of Georgia, at least in quite some time. Like, the reaction to Justin Fields committing to Georgia was quite this large. The idea that Kirby Smart was getting a 5-star. And not to be disremembered that Jacob Eason was also a 5-star, but that was kind of one that Kirby got in on in the middle of and really wasn't his own, if you will say. Mm-hmm. But Justin Fields was certainly his one. And now, after a few years later, they get another one. Brock Vandegrift obviously was one as well, but this Jared Curtis commitment feels bigger than perhaps any other commitment Georgia has gotten. Dude,
and it feels like one of those ones that every Georgia fan that I spoke to thought that they were going to lose.
Yep.
It's been a minute since you've kind of felt like you won one of these, and let's not dodge it. It was a high value quarterback and a high price tag that we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. But your initial thoughts, Kirby, when you found out the news today?
My initial thoughts just leading up to it and throughout it were this was such a fun commitment process to follow. I feel like far too often nowadays, especially with the big name guys, months out in advance, okay, and finally when it does come, it's just like, all right, well, we all saw this coming. None of us, I feel like we're more tapped in than anything, and none of us could really even have a prediction for where it went. We had a gut feeling, but that didn't mean anything.
Look, I hope now that his commitment is done, I hope he's a little bit more forthcoming with the media, with events, with different things, so we can personalize this recruitment. I think that's what happened over the last month. Everything was a financial decision. Everything was, what's it going to cost? Who's going to get him? Transactional. I hope we get back to more of a personal, relatable story. If there was one takeaway that I could have from this experience with the Jared Curtis stuff, if I were his agent, I would have handled all of the I don't even know how to explain this. I would have made him a little bit more personable, because I felt like at least the reaction, Georgia fans are happy today, but going into it, it was nerves. Do we really – I hate when 5 stars are coming down to the decision-making process, and there's a portion of fan bases asking, do we really want this guy? Hell yeah, you really want this guy. He's the number 1 quarterback in the country, and he's by far the best quarterback on their board. Was the guy they had to have, and they landed him today.
Yeah, it felt that way when I saw finally, because I was driving as the news broke, just like, wow, they actually did. Like, they went through and they got one of the best quarterback prospects they've had in the Kirby Smart era. Like, you can say, Justin Fields or Jacob Eason, or even throw Jake Fromm out there at the time when he was a prospect. But this felt like a very momentum, this type of commitment for Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in previous classes for Georgia, they kind of had like a mixture of guys of this is who they are targeting. They would be happy to land any of them. Like, even when they had the commitment of Dylan Raiola, they were still going after Ryan Puglisi. They had both of them in the class. So even then it felt like they had multiple options that they wanted, and they were going to be happy to land either one of them. But this year it was, no, this is our guy. This is who we are going after. This is by far our top prospect in this class. And ultimately got the job done, too.
Look, I mean, you mentioned it, by far. I had a chance to kind of see where they evaluated these kids in this class and how they evaluated these kids in this class. It was a clear top shelf, Jared Curtis, and then a mixture of a bunch of guys that they liked, most notably Bo Bentley and Jaden O'Neal. But this was by far and away the guy. I think first and foremost, let's talk about what it means for Georgia here, guys. What I wrote down is relief with drama ensuing. You thought this was dramatic. Wait till he gets on campus. I mean, we know how it is covering the University of Georgia. There is no more popular player than the backup quarterback, and this one more popular than ever. He's a 5-star. He's a highly paid individual. We imagine we'll talk about the numbers here in a second, but this guy's going to get on campus, and buzz is immediately going to start popping. especially because of the way he throws the football, guys. Sources that, are inside the building are going to rave about this dude's traits, but the boosters that get to watch practice, oh my God, are they going to walk away thinking this guy's God's gift to football the moment they see him?
Oh, it's not even about practice. It's just the 5 minutes of warm up you're going to get to see
baby.
Pregame, baby. I mean, people did it with Jaden Rashada. Imagine what this is going to look like with Jared Curtis.
Rashada, you wait about $1.75 soaking wet. Wait till they see 6'4", 225 with a chooch out there, baby. It's going to go crazy.
I do have a question before we talk about when Jared Curtis gets on the campus, because let's be honest, there's still a long time before pen meets paper, and that's an official thing. Obviously, this felt like this was it. Once he locks in his commitment, there's no more, decommits or trying to see where else the market goes from here. But if you're Georgia, do you maintain contact with your Bo Bentleys and your other guys throughout this class?
It's not whether or not Bobo or whether or not the Georgia staff's calling those guys. It's whether or not those guys are picking up the phone. If they're going to answer the phone call. If I'm Bo Bentley, I'm not talking to you, buddy. I got to go find my new home.
Right.
I thought it was going to be you. And I was willing to wait on you, see if you're going to pick me to go to the dance with you, but you're going with the other girl. So I got to go find my man. You know what I mean? I think that's the way that, Bo Bentley should approach this thing. So should Jaden O'Neal. Obviously, O'Neal's wrapped up. I mean, he's committed to Oklahoma.
Right.
He should be, focused on that, in my opinion, considering especially how these chips have fallen. If Curtis goes to Oregon, then I'm with O'Neal. Maybe seek greener pastures over there at Georgia versus what Oklahoma might be able to present you. But I don't think there is any backup plans here, guys. I think this guy's locked in now. I think this one's done. I think this one's finalized. A verbal agreement on the contractual stipulation.
Yeah, I don't want to plant seeds of he's going to pull something towards the end of his commitment process or even just be throughout this. So me and Jay, what we're talking still, hypothetically, if Jared Curtis does come around in November or December and say, you know what, I want to see what else is out there. I want to maybe get a raise. I want to test the market one more time. You're in deep shit in the quarterback
You're in
market.
deep shit, and so is that agent. If you think that agent's ever going to get a good name, Kirby Smart will torch that dude's. And by the way, that's their only recourse. That's their protection plan for what you're laying out right now, which is what happens if he calls for a raise in December? What happens? We've gone through 6 months. This guy's been our signee. We're done. It comes time to put pen to paper, and now all of a sudden you want to raise your price. Honestly, if that happens, if you're Georgia, you have to give it to him. Right? You can't. There's no backup plan.
You can't go this class without a quarterback.
You just cross your fingers and hope this young man and his agent hold themselves to their own word.
Yeah.
Because what you're laying out right there, nothing's stopping that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. So that's scary, but you locked up the talent today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the good thing.
And you're 99% certain that talent is going to remain with you throughout the process in the signing day. It's just always that kind of – Kirby Smart and his staff have always been someone to have a plan B in case disaster strikes. So I was just wondering, what would the plan B be in that hypothetical situation?
Plus, I would say, too, about this, and this is kind of what I think Brooks was getting at, too, of – he decommitted from Georgia once already, opened back up the market. Obviously, you would have to imagine that once you do that, the asking price goes up already because you got a bunch of other schools sniffing around. Then he recommits to Georgia. If he were to do it again and do it in December, I mean, what would other teams think of that as well?
Oh, buddy.
I mean,
they don't give a shit.
I know, but I'm just saying.
No one gave a shit. How talented this kid is.
No
It's
one
talent. I mean, it's one-of-one talent. That's the thing. And that's why Oregon and Georgia were willing to pay whatever they wanted or whatever he, was going to need. Mm-hmm. By the way, South Carolina would have done the same thing if they were in the cut. Mm-hmm. Texas, probably not because of Arch, but everybody would have done what Georgia and Oregon were willing to do to get this kid. He is indeed that talented. Let's talk about what I've been led to believe the payment structure is. It sounds to me like it's going to sound like staggering money, but based off what the quarterback market seems to be nowadays, he took a pay cut coming to Georgia. I'm going to tell you that right now compared to what he was going to get at Oregon. I don't know the number there. I just know I've been told it was considerably higher. Noticeably higher was the wordage, I believe, that was used this morning. $600,000 to $800,000 year one. All of Georgia's NIL contracts moving forward, by the way, are backloaded, not front-loaded. I've been told most schools are front-loading these deals, trying to get cash on hand to get the commitments of kids. Not so much at Georgia. You got to play your way into big-time money. So $600,000 to $800,000 slotted and prorated for year one. I've been told 1.2 to 1.4 for year two. Year three, open up, renegotiate, see what it is. See where we're at, both sides. By then, it could cost you 3.7 to 4, whatever the market value is for a starting high-end caliber quarterback. Or maybe it's, we run the contract back because Puglisi's won the job. Who knows?
I mean, you might even also have rev share at that point, so who knows what it's going to look like.
Well, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. This contract signed or will be signed, and the money is separated for rev share. Okay, so this is $1 million, I've been told, coming out of rev share, and $1 million coming out of both the collective and actual marketing deals.
Okay. So that's the first 2 years.
Correct.
But like the third year, it could be who knows? God knows.
Who knows? By then, I mean, here's the most ideal situation. By then, he's already started 2 years, okay, or he's going into year two as a starter. He starts in 2027, balls out in 2028. We don't have to give him a bunch of rev share money because Nike's actually signing him. Gatorade's actually signing him. Powerade's actually signing him. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, that's the most ideal situation for what Georgia just did today in order to help alleviate some of those rev share concerns. Because I'm with you. You sign a quarterback like this, it makes me wonder if you're going to have to go bargain shopping everywhere else at other positions. Now that we knocked out the pay structure, boys, let's give credit where credit is due. He'll never get his flowers. Everybody hates the guy, but he's the reason the 5-star number one quarterback in the country is coming to the University of Georgia. It is Mike Bobo, okay? This kid raves about the relationship that he has with Georgia's offensive coordinator, who most of the fan base seems to despise.
Well, not only that, I mean, I think you have to kind of commend what Georgia has done offensively over the last few classes. And I mentioned this in the reaction episode that you and I did of just if you just want to lay out the future of Georgia's offense over the next few years, there's a potential where you have Jared Curtis as your starting quarterback. You have Ethan Barbour at tight end. You have Elias Williams at tight end. You have C.J. Wiley. You have Talon Taylor. All these guys that you've recruited to bulk up your wide receiver room, and then whatever else you do in the transfer portal to make ends meet there. I mean, this is setting up to be a really strong offensive unit for Georgia in the foreseeable future.
By the way, don't think I don't see the Super Chubs. We're going to get to it. We just got to knock out this subject right here. This topic's a big one. It's the biggest news story in college football right now. Go ahead. Sorry.
So as far as Mike Bobo goes, from what I understand, like this was a Mike Bobo recruitment job.
Yeah.
Like Kirby Smart didn't have his hands on this as much as you typically would for a recruitment. Like this was Mike Bobo driving the force. And then you think about it, like Bobo's track record with quarterbacks has been pretty good. Quarterbacks that he picked, quarterbacks that he has recruited, he has trained. Remember, he was the quarterbacks coach when Matt Stafford was recruited. He coached Matt Stafford as the offensive coordinator throughout his sophomore and junior years. He obviously had Aaron Murray the entire time. Like, the track record of recruiting high-profile quarterbacks has been pretty damn good under Mike Bobo. Now, obviously, you have Jared Curtis, who is the highest-ranked quarterback since Matt Stafford. So, it's a damn good job by Mike Bobo. And honestly, it's a testament to the body of work he's put in despite what people might say about him.
By the way, I was at a practice. Can we give a nice golf clap for the efficiency of this commitment ceremony today?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, good God.
Got right into it.
Sat down, got right into it. I'm going to Georgia. Here's my Hollister shirt. Go Dogs. Appreciate y'all for coming. I'll take questions now off over to the side.
Yeah, usually you get the head coach is going to speak.
Yeah.
Principal's
We
going to
show a
speak.
montage.
Heck,
Here
we
comes the OC.
Might even get the 7U coach to come in and say a few words.
Little bro, gonna have a chat. Can't wait
Yeah.
to look up to you. Yeah, all that good stuff. But nah, this was bang, bang, in and out. I'm a dog.
Love it.
Man, could you imagine driving 5.5 hours for that one? Woo. I'm just kidding. I would have done it had I not been busy. Don't mean the big league, folks.
No, it was very, literally, when it said 5:30, I was like, I might be able to be here on time for that recruitment. Because, it's going to start at 5:30, but we said it's going to be at 6:30 before he even announces it. No, it was 5:35 when he announced it. So, shout out to that.
All right, so we already talked about it. Now, how quickly do you think the pressure feels that this guy's got to get onto the field?
From a Jared Curtis standpoint,
Curtis,
or
yes.
from
From
a team standpoint?
I would say as soon as Gunnar Stockton is off the roster.
You think?
Yeah, I would say. Because that's just
Like bypassing a really talented arm there.
well, I'm just, what I mean by that is
and
saying,
Puglisi. This is why I'm glad you went here, because this is where I wanted to stumble the conversation into.
And what I mean by that is the pressure starts then because the job is officially open at that point. And so now he is officially an option along with Ryan Puglisi, along with Ryan Montgomery as well. Whoever else is in the room, that job is officially open. I mean, probably going to be the biggest quarterback battle at that point in time in the program's history, maybe. I mean, you got a lot of really good arms in that room that's going to be battling for a starting job.
Yeah, and it's going to be a one where you're going to have, let's just be honest, it's a big name recruit. It's the number one quarterback in the class. You've obviously put out a lot of resources for it. The fan base is going to be very, very eager to see what Jared Curtis can do even if Ryan Puglisi is on the roster, even if Ryan Montgomery is on the roster. I don't know how it's going to work out from a Georgia standpoint, from maybe feeling the pressure of resources.
Yeah.
I've always felt, despite resources be damned, despite how much you've put into getting a person to play at your school, they have always and will always put in the quarterback that gives them the best opportunity to win.
Yep.
If they don't feel like Jared Curtis does that by his second year or his third year, like, it is what it is. But they're going to put in the quarterback they believe will give you the best track to win. And honestly, they've done pretty damn good at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think other coaches might bend to, well, we're paying guy X amount, so he has to play. I don't think this one will. I think you're right. I think its best player will play, and it always has been, and that's, you would imagine, where it's going to remain. So if Ryan Puglisi is the best player in 2027, he's going to be the starter. We know it's going to be Gunner in 2025, and we know, based off everyone's belief in here, we don't know this, but we believe Gunner Stockton is not a one-year starter done off to the league guy.
I'd be shocked if he is.
I'd be stunned, flabbergasted, biggest shock in my career if this is a one-and-done, I'm a first-round pick guy. I mean, like, strike me dead if that happens, honestly. Like, it would absolutely blow my mind.
Even if he plays like a first-round pick, you
It's
still
just
need
you still got to get the
starts.
reps, got to get the starts, got to get the amounts. And he's not one of these traitsy guys that people will overlook the non-30 starts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a guaranteed Gunner for 2 kind of a deal unless he just isn't good enough. If he plays his way out of the job this year and Puglisi's in there week 7, I think we got a totally different discussion, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like Gunner is going to take this team to where they need to be this year and then ultimately roll it into 2026, and then all guys are on campus. You've got a year, if you're Ryan Puglisi, to battle that dude out in-house with only eyes of the coaches on you.
And that's what I was about to bring up, is that when that, like, assuming that this is a timeline of how everything plays out where Gunner is gone after 2 years of starting at Georgia, I mean, it puts every single player in a solid spot to win that battle of Puglisi would have been here for multiple years. He would have been developed by then. Curtis will have a year under his belt of he's learned the system already. Ryan Montgomery also have multiple years under his belt of learning this system. So you have a really strong core of quarterbacks to choose from at that point. It's not going to be what you've kind of seen in years prior where it's been, we kind of have a known guy who's gotten some reps in the middle of a game, and then it's some guys that really don't have anything we have a lot of unknowns about. I think the coaching staff in general have a good read on what they have their options to.
All right, so obviously you land Curtis today. You land the commitment of Curtis, verbal, all that good stuff. We assume it's locked up. He's made it known it's locked up. Like, this is done. I'm not doing anything else. This is it for us. So that moves on to the next discussion of basically what is next for Georgia in the 2026 class. I think most notably Jackson Canwell has already tweeted out, and Curtis has already talked about coming down here this weekend when Cantwell is in town for his unofficial visit. Cantwell set to commit May 13th, so we're 8 days away from that. They seem to be connected. Cantwell, right now, a lot of people think Cantwell's going to Miami. Oregon in the mix as well. Obviously, Oregon and Curtis were tied together. I think that Georgia has kind of decided we're financially all in on certain prospects because we can't buy them all, right? So if we're going to circle certain prospects, my understanding is they've obviously circled Curtis. They're going to circle Cantwell. And I think that the other name that I'd be looking at is Mark Bowman. And then after that, you kind of go bargain shopping everywhere else.
And it makes sense that they would do this. And honestly, Georgia's track record with we must have this guy, we will go to all ends of the earth to get this guy, they usually pay off.
Yeah.
So I think this is honestly it's an alarming strategy just because some of the numbers that are getting thrown out with these recruitments nowadays. And it's Georgia's fans have always been told, pride themselves on, we don't overpay for recruits. We don't pay the big dollar amounts because we're Georgia. We don't need to do that. Georgia's going to start paying big dollar amounts just because that's what the market is right now. But they are going to have the prospects that they want and desire, and they're going to do everything they can to land them.
And not only that, look where the rooms are at those three positions, right? Offensive tackle looks pretty deep right now, but it's going to get pretty thin pretty quick. We don't believe Monroe Freeling's like a 5-year college prospect. He's going to be in the NFL pretty quickly. We know Ernest Green's got 1 year of eligibility left, right? The room's getting like thinner. Okay, so you need to go get a guaranteed, we think this guy's going to be plug and play, whether it's right tackle, whether he moves, wherever he goes. They think Cantwell's going to be a really, really good college football player, maybe borderline great. They know Mark Bowman's going to be great, and you already know what's happening to that tight end room very soon. Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky going to eventually depart from that room. I know Elias Williams is there. I know Ethan Barber, which everyone wants me to call it. It was spelt like Barbour. My brain says Barbour, so we're going Barbour. I know it's Ethan Barber. He's in that room. It's going to thin out eventually. You need to add in a guy like Mark Bowman as well. I see the chat hitting on Atkinson. I'm with that. I am of the opinion that I would pay Tyler Atkinson whatever he wants. But eventually, at some point, you've got to start moving resources around where it needs to be. Maybe they end up finding the resources to sign a player like Tyler Atkinson late in the class like they did KJ Bolden.
And I think, too, like, not to discredit anything about Tyler Atkinson because he's a phenomenal player, and I know that the tight end room is loaded, but allocating resources to those three players, especially when people are floating around like, oh, Mark Bowman, Brock Bowers potentially. That's kind of the track that this one is going on.
With a strong DAP game.
I love that. I love that gets thrown into the eval of this player. But it also, like, if you were to have a position that you can always say, like, we're good here, it's University of Georgia. It is linebacker. Like, you've gotten dudes over the past couple of years that have loaded up that room.
I'm just saying Brock Bowers seems like he might listen to some Fleetwood Mac, and Mark Bowman looks like he might listen to some Key Glock. That's all I'm saying.
It's
Nothing wrong with
AAU
Fleetwood
circuit
Mac.
Brock Bowers.
Nothing.
There's nothing wrong with Fleetwood Mac, though.
AAU circuit Brock Bowers, strong DAP game Brock Bowers, Spider-Man meme.
Amen.
I'm with it.
Interesting.
But I think it's a good thing, too, that you got the recruiting class at wide receiver that you did last year, and you didn't feel like you could wait until this year to do it because you got Jared Curtis, and you're also focusing in on Cantwell and Mark Bowman. If you're trying to find yourself a fringe 5-star wide receiver in this class or trying to load up on wide receivers in this class, I mean, it doesn't exactly sound like that's not a friendly position to be saying, oh, we're going to bargain shop for the rest of this.
Plus, it also seems like Georgia's kind of made themselves comfortable with going out and saying, okay, we're going to find young SEC receivers that will have 2 or 3 years of eligibility left, get them so we can have an even more body of work. Like London Humphreys was this, Noah Thomas was this. I know it didn't work out well for reasons, but Rara Thomas was this. Like Dominic Lovett, like all of these guys are, SEC caliber receivers that started on other SEC programs that you would expect would that's kind of the trend that Georgia seems to be going in for their recruitment of wide receivers.
Absolutely. Got a player comp for you, and I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel here. I'm with the Matthew Stafford stuff. I understand it. Maybe we watch those back-to-back. I know we were going to talk about watching Matthew Stafford clips tonight. Maybe we watch both. Maybe we watch Curtis and then turn right around and watch Stafford from high school. It is that one-of-one type of arm talent, so I've been told. The number one question I had for Georgia sources this morning was, does he love football? And I got resounding yeses. So the kid loves football. Fire, passion, and energy, something that Kirby Smart talked about, something that you have to ask, hey, does the guy coming in have that? He needs to have it. So there's that. The player comp, I'm with it, Matthew Stafford. Now, here's the intel that I want to give you, okay, and the reason that Georgia was so adamant about this guy. Jared Curtis is the highest-ranked quarterback in terms of a eval that they've evaled in the last 3 classes by a mile. Okay, it is Jared Curtis, the last 3 classes directly up underneath him. 4 classes ago would have been Arch Manning. So, highest they've evaluated since Arch.
Makes sense.
They didn't go all in on this one like they did the Arch thing. I think they learned a lot from that, honestly. Because if today goes the other way, I think Bo Bentley they felt great about. I think he was gonna wait that thing out and eventually end up committing to Georgia, but this is the best of both worlds. You had a contingency plan, but you signed plan A.
And I think that since the commitment, I think this is what a lot of people wanted. And as you mentioned, hopefully there's even some more clarity after this. But I think even just since his commitment to Georgia, I think you've gotten more clarity on the overall situation, like the payment structure. I think that should make fans feel a lot more comfortable because there was a lot of worry about it. I understand, like when you're recruiting a 5-star quarterback like Jared Curtis and all these dollar amounts start getting thrown at you and you get a little worried, like we're paying this guy what? Don't even know, like don't even have high school film or updated high school film to go off of or anything like that. I think there's more clarity on why Georgia wanted him so bad. Like why he specifically chose Georgia, how this is ultimately going to work for him. So I think the clarity that we have gotten since his commitment has been a little settling, if you will.
Yeah, and I think us as a network are also kind of guilty of this. Like the entire Jared Curtis recruitment was so unique in that it was so kept under wraps. It was so professionally done. And meanwhile, you had, the Carson Beck saga going on for Georgia fans and the Nico Iamaleava thing. And I think Georgia fans, and maybe we even were guilty of this a little bit, kind of tied that back to the situations that were externally.
Sure.
So I think it's understandable as to why there was some trepidations and some fears about the commitment, but you're glad that you have this talent on your roster right now, or at least in your recruiting class. So.
And I think that's the main thing. That's what I open with. Like, and we actually had a wheel of topic pop up the other day is what is Georgia's biggest advantage? And their biggest advantage is that they recruit talent. That's what they do. They are a talent acquisition football program. They are not a football program that is out here trying to out-scheme people. They're not a football program that's out here trying to win in the margins. Like, they win with dudes. That's what they do. And every once in a while nowadays in the world of college football, that means money. That means you have to invest in talent. If talent is expensive, then you have to go get money because you are a talent football team. So you can't get, and I think you're right, Kirby. I mentally got too wrapped up in the gamble of giving so much of your rev share or giving so much of your money to a high school kid. But that's the reality of what they do. They are a football program built off talent and built off recruiting really, really good classes. And really, really good classes nowadays are going to be expensive. So you can't be for lack of a better term, you can't be a bitch about it. You can't be scared to go out and pay kids whatever it needs to, within reason, right? All of these kids, if they end up coming to Georgia, are going to come for less, right? If Mark Bowman picks Georgia over Texas, it's going to be for less. If Jackson Cantwell picks Georgia over Miami, it's going to be for less. So you're still doing it for a lesser dollar value, but it's more than probably what you're used to spending if you're a Georgia fan, and you probably can't disassociate yourself from the Lambo driving quarterback. I've seen that so much today. I've seen the Lambo driving quarterback. I don't want another one. This guy might be better.
Yeah.
This guy might be better.
Well, I can remember, too. I mean, just even going back to last recruiting cycle, but I can remember for like the past couple of years of fans were getting frustrated because they felt like their program wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
They felt like they were not spending the money, that they weren't willing to go past the threshold, that they were setting the ceiling, and they wouldn't go past it. I mean, Justice Terry, people were talking about it then of like, why won't we do what these other teams are doing to get this talent? And now Georgia is. So I know that there was some hinderings of, I don't know if Jared Curtis needs to come here, but you're getting talent, and that's what you asked for to begin with.
Honestly, the Justice Terry thing, looking back on it now, I thought, like, I graded him slightly better than Elijah Griffin, but knowing now what I know that Elijah, like, I don't know the number that he signed for at Georgia. I just know that he turned down a ton of money elsewhere. It would have been really, really weird to have a guy come in your class making basically double or maybe triple what you are.
Yeah.
That would be really, really weird. That would create an interesting dynamic. I think it's a dynamic that they're gonna have in the quarterback room. I'm telling you right now, Gunnar Stockton does not make $800,000 in name, image, and likeness. No. Breaking news here. Matter of fact, if Gunnar Stockton makes more than like $250,000, I'd be shocked. I guarantee you On3 doesn't have an NIL evaluation on Gunnar Stockton, if that's what you're Googling right about now.
He's the 10th highest Bulldog, I believe, and it's like in the $600,000 range off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that, though.
So that's your starter. And the freshman we think is going to come in making something like that.
You got to pay for it.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think that Gunnar Stockton much cares about that. So I don't think that's anything you have to worry about where, oh, shit, we're getting this guy into our quarterback room now. It's going to inflate everyone else.
All right, so obviously when the number one quarterback in America signs or makes his commitment today, quarterback dominoes are going to start to fall. There are some guys that were waiting out this decision to see where they were going to go, most notably Bo Bentley. Jaden O'Neal, I think, ends up sticking with Oklahoma, and I think this means Bo Bentley goes to LSU. I think Landon Duckworth ends up at Ole Miss. I think South Carolina's sitting there holding the bag going, what are we going to do? And other than that, I don't know of any Oh, Ryder Lyons is going to end up in
Oregon.
Oregon, it sounds like. USC, another one of these teams. Both the USCs going to be holding the bag for a quarterback not to be named. Because the Smeagol kid ended up going to Michigan. So South Carolina's really kind of up a creek without a paddle here.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like South Carolina, Landon Duckworth, there was a tie there, and then, South Carolina's in on the Jared Curtis mix. Oh, South Carolina gets cut from the Jared Curtis mix. Oh, Brady Smeagol now. They're linked with South Carolina. Oh, he commits to Michigan. Now Landon Duckworth probably going to go Ole Miss. Seems like they got caught up in a lot of different things and didn't know where to go, and now they have nowhere to go. At least for the Trojans, they have Hassan Longstreet, who just got on campus, and you have Jaden Mayava, who's going to be your starter this year based on what Lincoln Riley has said. So USC at least has a future at the position, and South Carolina does have Aaron Nolan. They also have Cutter Woods, but kind of feels like you could add a bit more to that room to at least feel more comfortable.
Oh, they were trying. They were trying in 2026 to go after some dudes, but seems like everyone's kind of – what really messed them up is midway through this recruitment cycle, you have to change coordinators.
Yeah.
Right, Dow Loggins goes to App State. You bring in Mike Schuler. You promote Mike Schuler. I think that kind of created a little bit of a speed bump, if you will, for South Carolina. But, yeah, man, a massive, massive domino falling today, like I said.
So what does this do from the domino effect of Georgia recruiting? Like, do you feel – because it felt like kind of there are some big – now, obviously, we talked about the Jackson Cantwells and Mark Bowmans, all those guys, but it kind of felt like the Georgia 2026 recruiting class was kind of just waiting and seeing what the quarterback situation looks like, and then you're going to start getting these tricklings in.
So, like I saw Ryan Mosley tweet out today something about it with eyes emoji at James Coley. That's a perfect type of football player to be talking about this attracting. If you're talking about this attracting like Tristan Keys,
Right.
the 5-star that's committed to LSU, I believe, I'm going to tell you no.
Probably not.
Right? If you think this is going to get them in the mix for a wide receiver that's demanding $1.5 million, I'm going to tell you no. Right? So I think this makes you a little bit more likable for prospects like Ryan Mosley, who is basically deciding, in my opinion, between Georgia and South Carolina.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, this nudges him towards Georgia, but not because he's getting a pay raise. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And, too, like, taking into account what you already have in the class at the position of Brady Marchese. Is that how you pronounce that? I believe so.
Yeah.
And then also Vance Spafford, who I know that there's been some rumblings that USC has gotten into his ear a little bit. But, I mean, your wide receiver room is kind of already taking shape of how you would want it to in this class, considering the guys that you have now and then also the guys that you're targeting and recruiting as well.
All right, 34 minutes in. Y'all show from now on. Where are we going?
Sharon Moore.
That's all I prepared for. I'm lazy, so let's go, boys.
Sharon Moore has been suspended by his own accord, the own team's accord, for his involvement in the advanced scouting reports from Connor Stallions from the 2023 season. Would you like to guess what weeks the suspension will be served? Unless you've already seen this.
Yeah, I've already seen it. 3 and 4. And Michigan's reasoning behind this is because they didn't feel that it was fair. They thought, first of all, they thought it was fair to suspend their head coach for cheating and admitting that he cheated, but they didn't think it was fair to punish him so much so that he had to miss the opportunity to coach against his alma mater, Oklahoma. That was their excuse behind it.
Which is a commendable reason.
So here's the deal. If I was, let's say, like a 12-year-old boy, and I got in trouble at school, and I had a big birthday party that I was excited to go to, one of my friends that weekend, you think my mom's just going to like, hey, don't worry about being grounded this week. We'll postpone it to next week so you can go to Jimmy's birthday party? No. That is not how discipline works. That is not how the world should work. Sit your ass out for the first 2. I don't care if you played at Oklahoma tough. You should have cheated.
All I'm hearing is that Michigan thinks John Napier is the truth. Got to have Sharon Moore on the sidelines for that one. We can't be missing a beat.
I kind of wish camera 4 was shown when I started talking about if I were a 12-year-old boy. Because I saw eyelids go up like, where in the hell is he going with this?
I'm kind of wondering where that was going, but I wasn't going to.
I brought it back. I brought it around.
You definitely saved it.
I mean, all I know about from my childhood is nothing but being grounded. So, you know.
But no, I mean, I get the not suspending him then, and I'm not mad at that. It's just like it's one of these things. Again, it's what they did with Harbaugh more so. I don't really care that they suspended him for not the Oklahoma game because that's his alma mater and whatever. It's just the fact that this is such a minuscule suspension, and it's just more of the fact that it shows that whatever's going to happen from that 2023 season is going to end with a whimper, and there's going to be show clauses for guys that aren't even in the NCAA anymore, and it's going to be 2 or 3 game suspensions and meaningless games for the rest of the guys that were left behind.
You think we get some free Sharon Moore shirts?
No.
You don't think
You
so?
think they go on to win a national title off of this?
No.
Is everybody hating them?
No.
No, not at all. I will say, though, Week 4 at Lincoln, Nebraska with no head coach might get interesting.
Apparently not. They don't think Nebraska's anything. They don't even need their head ball coach for it.
I mean, that's
John Napier greater than Dylan Raiola.
that could
Per
be
sources.
Not a terrible take.
per Michigan suspensions, but no, I think that could be a disastrous. Oh my God, we suspended him for the wrong week type thing. But again, it just goes to show that it's going to end with a whimper, and we kind of built it up when it was coming down. Like Michigan's in deep shit here, and Harbaugh left to get out of the head for sanctions, but it's not going to accumulate to anything. Unfortunately,
I don't know who the chat is out here talking about wanting $10 million, but I have not heard anything about that. I don't know what player they're talking about, but that is not anything that I've heard of. The only $10 million player in college football right now is Bryce Underwood. So
It looks like they're talking about Tyler Atkinson.
yeah, I have not heard those numbers.
Yeah, no. I hope
I
no one's floating that number around for any
I
player.
mean, it's expensive, but it ain't that expensive.
Jeez.
That's a lot. That's 2.5 a year.
Yeah, man, no.
Actually, no. All these are 3-year deals maximum because none of these 5-stars think they're going to be around for a 4th year. So yeah, that's a lot more than I've heard of, but it is expensive. It's not that expensive. I don't think anybody would be in the market at that. That's a lot. All right, where are we going next?
Do you want to take this? You want me to do the
I want to hear this because I didn't even look at the article. I want
All right.
to talk about this. Mapped out the entire 2025 postseason in the month of May, in the early parts of the month of May.
So the 247 Sports.
You think this article would hit better in like May 20th?
Well, maybe.
I mean, this is peak. Like, all
We
right,
don't have shit to write about.
we're past the NFL draft buzz
Yeah.
now. We got to get something out. Let's just start making predictions that no one's going to remember. So 24/7 Sports did the college football predictions for basically every single bowl game, and it mapped out the college football playoff as well, and it got some interesting matchups here. First off, playing in the Mayo Bowl is Florida State and Tennessee.
Is this a playoff game?
No, the Mayo Bowl?
No. I thought we were doing playoff games.
Oh,
I don't really care about the
Oh,
Duke's
this is just
Mayo
a
Bowl.
side note you wanted to bring to the table.
So the ESPN thinks both those programs are like 8-4. Isn't that a Duke's Mayo Bowl classic? 8-4 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, Florida.
That's a substantial.
You know,
improvement
maybe if
for
it was
Florida State.
maybe if it was the Hellman's Mayo Bowl, but this is the Duke Mayo Bowl. Okay.
Yeah, my takeaway from this was that they think Florida State's going to have that good of a season.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway.
And that's kind of where I was going with some of these. But we can skip to the playoff if you want. That's fine.
No. Do the segment how you want to do the segment.
No, I already skipped the playoff. All right. Number 5, Penn State will be hosting number 12, Navy.
Navy's a playoff team, huh?
Navy will be the group of Power 4 or non-Power 5 representative group.
I'm holding down them UConn Huskies until I can't give up the stock.
Okay, I didn't think that this could get any crazier than it
Give
just did.
me the UConn Huskies
Look.
as the non-P5 member.
Good
Look,
Lord.
you might as well put up a bulletin board of
Shout
all
out
the
Jim
G5
Mora.
teams and just blindfold yourself and throw a dart in whichever team it lands on. That's the one. That's what we're going with.
Apparently, Tulane had $4 million for Nico, so Tulane, non-Power 4 member. Maybe. Shout out to the Green Wave.
That could be interesting. All right, next game. Number 6, Notre Dame will host number 11, Georgia.
Boo.
So this is the
Rematch. Boo.
It's the implication
Ratings
that Georgia
down.
does not win the SEC this season. Probably, I mean, at that rate, probably going 9-3 that year.
I was about to say that's a 10-2 loss in the SEC championship season is what that is.
Yeah, which
11th overall. That checks out, though.
Yeah,
I can
I
see
mean-
that happening.
number 7, Alabama will host number 10, Miami.
Man, you
The
can
Mi-
tell this was written in the month of
The
May.
Miami Hurricanes will be ranked higher in the playoff seeding than the Georgia Bulldogs.
If Miami survives that schedule to start the season with a quarterback who's just going to start throwing footballs soon, Mario Cristobal, Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
Mario Cristobal, Coach of the Year.
valid. All right, next game, I think, honestly, this is the one where I was like, all right, that makes sense to me. Number 8, Oregon hosts number 9, LSU. I'm fine with both of those teams being those seedings. I think that's a fine prediction to make in May. It's not very outlandish. We're getting to the quarterfinals now, so this is also teams. I'll go ahead and give you the conference champion winners for this prediction, too. Clemson wins the ACC. Iowa State wins the Big 12. Texas wins the SEC. Ohio State wins the Big 10. Nothing really shocking there.
I would push back. I know Rocco Beck's back at Iowa State, but they lost 2 NFL wide receivers. I don't know shit about the Big 12.
Look,
I could grind tape. I could go through everything. I could go through the rosters. I could go through every single schedule. I'd still come up with I don't know.
well, I think the consensus is we've come to as a show is you can name any Big 12 team and go,
Sure.
yeah, I see why they win the playoff, but here's 5 reasons why I don't think they're that good. And they would all be valid. They would all be correct.
Like if Baylor behind the arm of Sawyer Robinson threw for 500 yards a game and won 9 games in the Big 12 and went to the Big 12 championship 9-3 and won it, would you be shocked?
I wouldn't be shocked.
That'd be the revival of a program and a head coaching job of a lifetime right there.
Yeah, I would.
Shout out Dave Aranda.
That man was a dead man walking there for a couple of seasons.
While also being sneaky like top 15 fringe range after year 1
yeah.
at Baylor. Just a heart monitor of a track record right now with the Baylor Bears. Saw the Baylor Bears on the trail today.
Oh.
Yeah. Out here in the city.
No wonder aspirations are so high over there.
Yeah, they out here recruiting the big states.
Very nice.
Getting out of that slumlord high school football that is Texas.
Yeah.
You know, they got terrible football.
Yeah,
out there.
Texas
goodness.
football
This is
sucks.
awful.
Horrible
football.
5-hour
Especially in the
radius
Wake
there.
area.
Trash.
But no. All right, so the Orange Bowl. Clemson will play number 3 Georgia. Iowa State plays number 5 Penn State. Texas plays Alabama. Exciting. And Ohio State plays Oregon. So that's your playoff quarterfinals.
So how many SEC teams they had making? They had LSU, Alabama, Texas, Georgia. 4 of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we get to the semifinals. Penn State plays Ohio State. Georgia plays Texas. Very, very.
This is a very underwhelming playoff format, if I do say so myself.
The national championship game will be Penn State versus Texas, according to 247 Sports, which means that Texas will have likely beaten Georgia in the SEC championship and in the Peach Bowl, and Penn State will defeat Ohio State after losing to them in the regular season because Ohio State will be ranked number 1 in this.
I would be willing to. This is a random. Does Brooks know the industry as much as he thinks he does? I would be willing to bet like a small wager, $20-25 that Brad Crawford wrote that article.
Let's see. Go up to the top. Brad Crawford wrote this article.
No, what made you say that?
I just read a lot. I read a lot, and that's his area. That's what he does.
I mean, there's a lot of people that.
I mean, Brandon Marcello's not writing that article.
Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's not that many national columnists left. I don't
That's
know if
fair.
y'all know this.
Yeah.
No. There's a
So, yeah.
lot of people that are very high on Texas this year, and this shows there's a lot of people that are very high on Penn State this year. So it's kind of being exemplified in these articles of predictions. But I figured that was kind of an interesting layout for how the playoff will go. Nothing really surprising with the exception of Navy. And what?
I was telling you off camera that now it's time for you to transition to the next one.
Okay, I don't know what this means.
This pointing you and saying that way is me swiping to the next
Okay,
segment
we've
from now on.
Why don't we go to the next segment?
literally never done that before. But all right, Jay, well, what's next on the docket?
I like a little pressure gauge. I always like this segment. And I think that, and this kind of got spurred on to me yesterday because I got to thinking about Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks this year. And I was like, it's interesting because Shane Beamer is under some pressure this year. Not his job security specifically, but just kind of the program in general. I feel like it's under some pressure this year to deliver a successful season. So I went ahead and put together a list of head coaches in college football of kind of doing a little pressure gauge check. What type of pressure are they dealing with, and how hot is the meter right now in the offseason heading into the 2025 season? So We'll start with Shane Beamer. And what I was getting at in saying that this isn't a job security pressure gauge check for Shane, because I think he did more than enough for himself to keep some security after last season. But as we've mentioned on the show, it feels like Lenore Sellers is setting up for his final season in Columbia. And he is the best quarterback prospect that South Carolina has ever had in their program. And with that being said, there's some pressure that you need to be successful this year, because who knows when the next one is walking through those doors. We just got done talking about what their recruiting class at the quarterback position is shaping up to be in the 2026 class. And you do have Cutter Woods and you do have Aaron Nolan sitting on the roster. But to deliver in a window like this that feels so short, there's some pressure to make sure that you capitalize off of it.
I can always tell what you think about your expectations for next year based off your winter and spring portal addition strategies.
Yeah.
Like if you're willing to say, hey, we'll overpay, just come play for us, and the word gets out about that multiple times over, it tells me you think your window's short too. You don't think your window's going to be open that long. Also, by the way, it seems like the rest of the world's catching on to what we started talking about at the NFL Combine. We started talking about at the NFL Combine that Lenore Sellers might be the guy coming off the board very, very early in the NFL draft next year. So it sounds like the rest of the world's starting to figure this out as well now that the 2025 draft is concluded and everyone's starting to look towards 2026. I saw Todd McShay talking about him being QB1 earlier today on social media as well. So the noise about that is already starting to drum up, and South Carolina already knew that. South Carolina knows what they got in this kid. They know what the NFL sees in him already. They talk to him about that quite often down there, does the NFL scouts. So they knew about this, and they knew the window was going to squeeze. So I'm with you. I think the pressure is pretty high to win at a high rate, maybe a unbefore-seen rate at South Carolina, considering they have an unbefore-seen talent at the quarterback position.
And I think it is a little unfortunate for the program that they were seen as a fringe playoff team last year, despite the fact that they had 3 losses. Like, if South Carolina had gone 9-3 and they were ranked 20th in the country and they went and played in the Citrus Bowl and lost to Illinois, I think people are talking about South Carolina a little differently this year. Like, still expecting them to be good because Norris is returning and Dylan Stewart is returning. They still have Nick Harbor and all those other things. But I think because they were like, oh, they almost made the playoff last year, just wait till this next year, and Norris is in year 2, it kind of upped the ante a little bit.
I think they're in a very similar situation to what they were coming off of the 2022 season when you beat Clemson again and you barely lost to Notre Dame, and it looked like things were really, really coming together with Spencer Rattler at the quarterback position, and like Shane Beamer had it figured out and you did not live up to those expectations. You're kind of dealing with that similar situation here where, hey, Lenore Sellers, first-round pick, things are coming together for South Carolina, but that window is short. Like, the expectations are high this year, and it's kind of the only year they're going to be that high.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, I think the offseason noise about South Carolina is totally different if they beat Illinois by 1 point.
Why you say that?
I just feel like everyone looks at them as fraudulent. Last year, we talked you up as this playoff team, fighting for you, arguing for you at 9-3, and then you go lay an egg in the Cheez-It Bowl, and now we all laugh at you. I mean,
that's
think
kind
it's
of
totally different.
Is not like, how is it different if they lose still though?
I think if they lose, like they lost last year, so now everyone's kind of like looking at them as, well, you weren't even good enough last year, and you lost all of this.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like they lost a ton. They lost more on the defensive side of the football than South Carolina's ever lost in one draft.
But what does that have to do if they only lose by 1 point, though?
No, I say if they win. I think if they beat Illinois last year, the hype around them this year is even ramped up even higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I missay that?
I think you said loss.
My bad.
That's
Yeah.
what I was,
If they would have beaten Illinois by a point in the Cheez-It Bowl,
Yeah.
the offseason hype around South Carolina is totally different.
And
It's
if
ramped
Shane
up
Beam-
like tenfold.
Shane Beamer doesn't crash out on the sidelines.
That
either.
too.
And I think it's worth noting, too, that I just discovered this today, that apparently they're waiting on a waiver for their running back that they got out of Utah
crazy.
State, Rasul Faison, who is supposed to be the replacement for Raheem Sanders, and they haven't heard anything back from the NCAA. So it's still up in the air if they're going to have a starting running back, the one that they handpicked out of the portal this year. I think that's a little interesting as well. Moving on, though.
Before you do that, I'm a sidebar here. I still can't believe the chat's defending cheating. That's crazy to me.
Sick.
I don't need to rehash the play action take, but I can if you want me to. Don't think I need to. If you don't think sign stealing is important, if you don't think it matters, if you don't think it changes the outcome of a game, then explain to me play action. Explain to me why teams use play action. Oh, you think it's going to be a run? Boom, touchdown. Oh, well, now imagine if the defense knows that play action fake is bullshit because they cheated and picked up the signs and know it's a pass. Crazy. Go ahead.
Case in point. The next one, Steve Sarkisian. Again, I think this is a very different pressure gauge than even Shane Beamer's, despite the fact that this isn't directly tied to his job security. But we're entering another window with Steve Sarkisian because you do have Arch Manning entering the starting role this year. We think that it's going to be 2 years. Some might say it's only 1 year, but nonetheless, 2 years or 1 year with Arch Manning, there's some pressure that comes with that.
Absolutely.
And there's also the pressure for the return of investment. Like, people are floating out this $30 million, $40 million number there. Whether it's true or not, that number's been floated out there now, and there's enough of the common population that's going to believe that. So there is this kind of added pressure of, hey, we're going to supposedly be spending this much money for a roster.
Nah, dog, it's all culture at Texas. It's all culture with a capital money sign.
Where's the money
That's in
sign?
culture, but we'll just put it at the front. The
Also-
$ ULTURE.
Also, capital money sign. I didn't know there was
Chill
a
out,
lowercase
bro.
money sign.
Chill out, bro.
The cent sign, I guess.
Draw it with those when you do the 3 dashes and then connect dashes 1 to -2 and -2 to -3, and then you make the value.
Oh, the Super S.
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's how we'll spell culture in Texas.
With the S.
Yeah,
But
with an S.
I want to throw him on this list because Arch Manning probably going to have a successful career at Texas. Many believe that it very well could end with him winning the Heisman Trophy. And if it does go that way, if everything goes to how people are predicting it and he does end up being the top overall pick in whichever draft class he ends up, it'll still be considered a success by Steve Sarkisian. And that would also be directly tied to if he does win a Heisman, then they obviously had production on the field that resulted in the win column as well. But I think that if all that happens, but you don't win a national title, and I hate to do this to say that a player has to win a national title or a coach has to, but I still feel like there'd be a slight disappointment and we didn't fully capitalize on the Arch Manning time.
I think Steve Sarkisian has to win a title in the next 3 years. I think he does.
He's getting into that Kirby Smart 2018 to 2020 range where it's
Yep.
like, yeah, we have great teams. Yeah, they're always going to compete for a national championship. But when are we going to win the national
Either you
When
can
are
or you
get
can't.
over a hurdle.
Yeah. So
Next coach I have on here is Billy Napier, a reoccurrence, I should say, because Billy Napier has kind of been on this pressure gauge segment for a while. But he got the vote of confidence last year, but really the vote of confidence was, DJ Lagway. He's the truth. He's a starting quarterback. But hasn't been fully available this spring, so you're really banking on DJ Lagway to still save your job, Billy Napier, because you really didn't get to see enough of him last year. Even feels totally secure. You did your job on the recruiting trail. You got some blue chippers in this class to tie in with DJ Lagway, and the offense looked good without DJ Lagway the spring game, but still, he's got to play well in order for you to stay at the University of Florida.
I think Billy Napier also has a pressure to make the future at Florida look bright. DJ Lagway is your future right now. That's why you're still at Florida with a job.
For
Because
24 months.
Right, because the future of DJ Lagway and that offense looks bright, and there looks like things you can do. How many commitments do you think Florida has in their 2026 class right now?
4.
They have one.
Huh?
They have one commitment. They rank 82nd. So it's like stuff needs to get going if you're going
Back
to
to his roots, baby.
have a future for Billy Napier.
Is that recruiting staff still like 970 people deep?
Well, if they are, they're
What are
not
they
really
doing?
They're not really working.
What are they doing?
A whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah, they got.
Watching DJ Lagway highlights.
They have
I guess.
Their only commitment is a 4-star quarterback named Will Griffin. So,
Man.
yeah, it's great that you have DJ Lagway bought you some time, but you need your future recruiting classes to buy you time as well.
Look, this is kind of like tinfoil hat theory a little bit here, but obviously Billy Napier got some type of backing from the people at Florida heading into the final stretch of the 2025 recruiting class, and that was to hopefully deliver what they hope DJ Lagway will turn into this year. But maybe it was also like, but for this 2026 class, we're going to have some type of proof of concept again before we're going to give you any type of backing.
Yeah,
the
but I mean, when
year.
you're one
They did have
commit-
2 commits. Isaiah Williams, the linebacker,
Oh,
flipped to
yeah.
Ole Miss.
That's a good point.
His 5th commitment in 18 months. Sure, that'll stick.
Oh, yeah.
money.
Guaranteed to graduate.
He said
there.
100% committed.
Yep. Just like he did to Fran. So there's like, I think he committed to NC State at one point.
Bro's
Louisville.
Louis, that's what it was.
Bro's 100%
Louisville.
chasing that bag.
Hey, no hatred.
Go get it, bro.
None. Go get it.
No hater at all.
Jealous across the forehead every time I hear about a teenager making that much money.
We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to skip a name and go to this final one because I want to make sure that we get to this one. Bill Belichick.
Yeah, this is self-induced. This is self-induced. I feel like every time we get off the show, there's a new development in this story. Or just a new, like, I think since the last time we talked, apparently Steve his son's wife is not exactly happy, so much so that she's out here like publicly tweeting that she basically doesn't like this lady. There was with the CBS interview where I guess Nikki Glazer of all people like caped up for this Jordan lady and said that that's what a publicist does. And then Steve Belichick's wife on a public forum commented and said, that's not what a professional does. This is ridiculous type vibes.
Well, I don't even.
You're so burnt out on this topic.
It's not even that I'm worried about the 24-year-old. Oh, prove you're still an elite head coach.
That too.
Bill Belichick has not had a winning record as a head coach. The last time he had a winning record, his girlfriend had a fake ID. That's how long it's been.
Damn.
So the idea that, the main distraction is his girlfriend and that's kind of what's creating the pressure here. No, Bill Belichick hasn't had a lot of success over the last 3 or 4 years. Like, he got fired from the Patriots. And I know he won 6 Super Bowls. I know he's one of the greatest defensive minds in the sport. But the last 4 or 5 years have not proven that. So this is a very important year, and there's pressure simply because of that. You can add all the girlfriend stuff if you want to, but
Well, look, it was one thing when you just put the headline as Bill Belichick is going to be North Carolina's head coach. That's a great hire. You can ease yourself into the first season, everything, because everybody knows where UNC is coming from a year ago. So he can ease his way into it. He'll turn the program around. People have faith in that. But as soon as you start entering this time frame of how tolerable are you? How tolerable is this guy going to be as a head coach? Because there are other things tied to it, and everything else is getting inserted into Bill Belichick being the head coach. It's not just Patriots legend is now the head coach with the Tar Heels. It's also Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend are running this program. There's a tolerance level that you have to hit, but that tolerance level gets weakened if you win football games. So now there's this pressure gauge that you have to win football games.
It also should be noted that nobody in the president's or chairman's board or anybody that makes decisions up at North Carolina wanted Bill Belichick except for the biggest booster there. And he basically said, I'm taking my ball and going home if we don't sign this cat. And all they've done the last 8 months is being headline news for non-football related stuff with the football coach who is supposed to be strictly football.
yeah.
I think that's the weirdest thing about this whole entire thing is that for my entire life as a football observer, Bill Belichick has kept the main thing, no nonsense, no side stories. We don't bring in superstars because they become stories and headlines and yada, yada, yada. It's all about football. And then he comes down to college and it's nothing but noise. I haven't heard a single thing about their actual football since he's been there. Not a damn thing.
Exactly.
Other than
That's weird.
No names on the jerseys.
Which is
Or numbers.
Or the numbers things was even stupider. Coach, how are we supposed to know who's who? You just got here. You don't know 3/4 of the roster by name. And now they got no numbers. You can't even say, hey, 74, come over here. Hey, you in the blue jersey. The whole team turns around. I do want to get to this before we go to the local hour, which is going to be short anyways. We might as well merge the two, so don't get too rushed anyways. We spent 30 minutes at the top talking about Jared Curtis to Georgia. So if you just joined us tonight, watch the rest of the show. Go back, watch the first 30 minutes of tonight's show. Kirby, you had it in the notes, and you can tell me where the article goes after I read this. But when I see in the notes, has defense taking up the mantle or reestablished themselves as the backbone of winning football and college football, my immediate thought process was, no. Like, it's all about offense. Everybody's all about offense. Offense, offense, offense. Money goes to offense. Innovation goes to offense. Coaching decisions, most lean offense. Offense, offense, offense. And then I do a little research of my own. And I start going there. Simple little experiment. Hey, give me the top 15 total defensive teams. Give me the top 15 total offensive teams from last year in all of Power 4 football. And what do I find? I find that 7 of the 12 college football playoff teams are ranked inside the top 15 in total defense. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas 3, Tennessee 6, Penn State 7, Notre Dame 11, Oregon 15. I think, wow, 7 of 12 inside the top 15. Defense wins. And then I look over to offense. I expect to see a plethora. I'm like, it's got to be 12 and 15, right? Wrong. 3 of the 12 playoff teams inside the top 15 in total offense. Those 3, Boise, Clemson, Tennessee, arguably 3 of the worst teams in the playoffs last year.
I was about to say, not even the ones you would guess.
Yeah.
No.
Those were the first 3 when we were going pre-notes. I was like, oh, those are 3 that don't have it.
So defense more correlative to success in college football right now than offense, just based off that right there.
Mm-hmm. And I think the changing of the guard came in like the 2019, 2020 when you had the LSU team and the Alabama team that just dominated through pure offensive domination. And we've kind of seen a slowing down of that. Obviously, Georgia's teams had very, very good defenses in 2021 and 2022. Michigan was a defense-heavy team in 23. So there's an article written by Seth Emerson from The Athletic who kind of questioned, has Seth Emerson?
I don't know that guy.
Oh, okay, well. He's from The Athletic. So, but there's this, he kind of questioned.
I'm sure he does great work.
But his question was, so we're seeing a clear slowing down of offensive momentum. The offensive quote-unquote explosion, he said, is on hold. But he doesn't think it's necessarily solely because defenses have gotten better and they've gotten more dominant. He thinks there's a couple of external factors in it. So he first lays out how since 2015, yards per game has steadily been on a decline. Yards per play has kind of hovered around the same. Points per game has been on a decline nationally. But he thinks that has a lot to do with the new clock rules. He also thinks it has a lot to do with transfer portal. And this was an interesting standpoint that I haven't seen before. A lot of teams, a lot of offenses have transfer portal players. The cohesiveness and the understanding of an offensive playbook is not as much there. What happens when you don't have as much of an understanding in an offensive system?
You have less cohesion.
Well, you also have to huddle a lot more.
That too.
It takes a longer time to get plays in. You have to utilize time to get a play plan. So teams are running the ball or running plays less. Combine that with the new clock rules, it's leading to less offensive points. So yes, defense is very important to winning national titles. You just went over the statistics of top 15 defenses versus top 15 offenses. But it might not necessarily be because defenses are catching up. Now, he did say in this article that there are some schematic changes that teams are doing, especially in the recruiting trail, where they're kind of picking a litany of guys to tackle more than one offenses. But it's not just because defenses are getting better.
I think more so, I mean, the clock rules obviously have if we run fewer plays on average across the board, we're going to have fewer points. That just makes sense. I think based off what I've watched over the last 5 years or so of college football, defenses have become far more innovative than offenses have. We're kind of running the same offenses that we have for the last 4 or 5 years.
I agree.
Defenses are slightly changes, particularly in the Big 12. Everybody in the Big 12 is running 3-3-5. Everybody. And that's been the counteracting to spread offenses and RPOs and all that good stuff. James Frank is my man. I think Robert DGD podcast already on the board. So shout out to him. Also shout out to James Frank for showing love for the Eddie Murphy shirt. So James Frank gets put here on.
Appreciate it, James.
Thanks, James. All Super Chubs north of $20 get their name up on the board. All right. So we'll watch that film here in just a second. Let's continue to talk about whatever we got to talk about. Where were we at?
We were talking about defenses being the backbone of college football.
Defenses. Yep.
So it's an interesting.
Tilt-a-world workers are this nation's backbone.
Hell yeah. I need to rewatch that movie. But no, it's an interesting standpoint of how, yes, the offensive, explosion of if you don't have a top 5 offense, you might as well not even show up because you're not going to win a national title has kind of been bucked, but it's also not just because defenses have solely gotten better. There's been some changes to the game as a whole that have helped that out.
Well, and I think, too, I think what kind of skewed this perception about how offenses are dominating college football is when in 2019 and 2020, the two best offenses in the sport were the ones that won the national title, that being LSU and Alabama.
And did so handily.
Yeah, and then you follow that up with, Georgia won it in 2021 behind their stud defense. And then in 2023 or 2022, it was a mixture of both. They had a really good offense, and they also had a really good defense. Then Michigan topples that with they had a really good defense, and that's what won them a national title. And then Ohio State, again, kind of a mixture of both. So I think we saw back-to-back years of two offenses that were just lighting the world on fire, and the assumption, therefore, was offenses are now what leads college football. That's what you have. That's a requirement in order to win a national title.
Boys, I thought Miami was going to have some tree outs there for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
At the wide receiver position. Sounds like they've actually made some moves to try to make this $4.5 million quarterback worth its while, huh?
Yeah, I think they finally woke up. It was like, maybe we ought to do something about this.
We need
Shit,
weapons.
that's our depth chart?
Wait, we actually have to compete now? We have to do all these things? So since we kind of talked about, because we had this segment a couple weeks ago where it was right when Nikar entered the transfer portal, it was like, Who is Carson Beck going to be throwing to? Well, Nycar has since announced that he is going to be staying at Miami. Miami also got a transfer safety from Tennessee in Jacoby Thomas. They also got a wide receiver out of BYU in Keelan Marion. And then they also got a linebacker from NC State in Kamal Bonner.
The Marion kid marks the second 6'2+ wide receiver that they now have on their roster. That was a much-needed addition right there. They had to get a veteran, big body, and there wasn't a lot of them. I'm not going to claim – there's no point even saying that somebody's poaching nowadays, but it was very clear to me that the BYU wide receiver got some phone calls late in the transfer portal process. He was one of the last names to enter, and he was a 900-yard receiver last year. Like, he was an all Big 12 guy, I'm pretty sure. So there was some stuff going on there. There was some, we need a guy, we better go get a guy. And by the way, it wasn't just Miami. I think Tennessee did the same thing. So, and they're striking out on a lot right now.
Yeah, they are.
Tennessee's missing on a ton of people.
But I think this is a testament to what Miami views their team is and what Miami views their quarterback is. Tinfoil hat theory is, do you think this was let's just even wait to see what we have in Carson Beck here before we even try to put weapons around it, or is that just
well, they don't know what they have in Carson yet. I mean, he's throwing balls on air. I don't even think he's throwing like full on, like, hey, get the boys together, let's go out and run routes on air. I don't think he can go do that right now. I think he's still in a full rehab process. If he is throwing a football full speed right now, it's one of the fastest recoveries from UCL surgery I've ever heard of. This dude tore his elbow up in early December, and we're, 6 months removed from that? That's, at best case scenario, that's normally a 9-month recovery period. No different than, tearing your ACL.
The last report I heard was, and this is his quoting, he was, quote, throwing footballs.
Yeah.
Now, whether that means
Kirby, I think that's me and you in the backyard. We're standing and throwing the football again for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 2 months removed from him being in the clicker. You know what the clicker is? That's when we put you in a sling and we click it out ever so slightly to get you into straight arm so we can straighten that ligament we just repaired.
But no, I think this is this is what you'd want to see if you're a Miami fan, where it's not only your team made a big acquisition early last year, whenever they did, but also is continuously making acquisitions to make it for the talent you lost. I still don't think they're going to be anything close to what they were last year. There's just too much irreplaceable talent on it. Cam Ward is too irreplaceable. Xavier Strepp was irreplaceable. They lost some defensive components, but the fact is that they're making efforts here, and you're getting bodies there.
Dude, the Jacoby Thomas thing, leaving Tennessee, is so weird.
There's been a couple of those from Tennessee.
That kid went to middle. He's from Tennessee. He went to Middle Tennessee State, balled out for 2 years, transferred to Tennessee, spoke adamantly about how he was dying to run out of the Power T. Set last year, was a spot player for them, was projected to be the guy this year in the back end for them, and then enters the portal after their spring game, I'm pretty sure.
Do you think that's a money thing?
Dude, I don't know what that is. And the weird thing about that is Tennessee's in a situation where they just had a bunch of money allocated to them because they're not paying Joey Aguilar what they were paying Nico. And then if that were the case, if Miami says, hey, we're going to pay you out of the wazoo to come down here, if you're Tennessee, you have to match that. You have to.
Do you?
Yes, in my opinion.
Why?
With where they're at right now.
You also did just set a precedent that we're not going to pay absorbent amounts of players, even if it's our starting quarterback.
We're not talking about a $2.5 million player asking for $4 million. We're talking about a $750,000 player asking for 1.1 or whatever the situation is. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, but
we're not doubling our highest paid player. We're giving a raise to one of our best players.
I get it, but
it's just it's weird to me. They don't have the leeway to be out here saying, yeah, let's just let a starter role that's supposed to be our guy.
I mean, it also could be a multitude of things we don't know, but it's an interesting story nonetheless.
Based off the people I read in that market and based off the things that I know about that market, everyone was caught off guard.
Yeah.
Everyone was caught off guard.
And I think at one point they were kind of expecting him to return. Like there was some talk of like, oh.
It's okay. It's a Boo Carter, Mike Matthews situation. He's just hostile negotiating us.
And then he ends up going to Miami instead. So.
All right. Play that there intro to the local hour. And I think we're going to open up the local hour at the board watching Curtis and Matt Stafford. See y'all in a minute.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape. Yep. Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. We finna talk that dog. If you missed the very beginning of tonight's show, we really hammered in the full details of the Jared Curtis recruitment, what went down today, all that good stuff. Picks Georgia over Oregon. I thought it'd be fun today to, for the 19th millionth time, watch his sophomore highlight tapes. Now, Mr. Curtis, if you're listening today, my man, I'll do it for you. I know it's time consuming because there's probably so many damn plays that you made last year, but I'll go through the film and cut it up for you if you need to, because we need a highlight tape to watch, buddy, because you out here tearing up Timmy and Tyler when you're 16-year-olds is awesome. But I'd love to watch you tear up Timmy and Tyler as a 17-year-old. That'd be cool, eh, boys?
It'd be pretty nice.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to watch this here sophomore tape yet again, and you're going to see all the incredible arm talent in the world. So let's go watch it. Here we go. Let's shut up and grind the tape. Folks been asking, Brooks, we need a film breakdown. Here we go. Here's the film breakdown. All right. Nothing but a chooch right here, baby. Nothing but a chooch. My man got one.
Threw it out of the camera.
Yeah, threw it out the camera lens.
Oh, this is one of those auto cameras.
Oh, yeah? Can't follow the chooch, can it? Now, what are we doing with our ball fake here, my man? We're putting the ball in our left hand already. Show the skin, please. Show the pig skin to the back, please. You see that right there, Curb? Mm-hmm. It must be something we're getting taught. I'd rather be showing the ball there. But I like that we hit it on our waistline, though. As we turn our back to the defense, we put it here instead of out here or wherever we hide the ball. That's nice. You get to see the run on the throw on the run.
The only thing I can think is because you're immediately rolling right there. You don't want it in your right hand.
This dude's got big mitts. I'm going to tell you that right now. This dude's got big mitts. I would say 10 and a quarter. 10 and a quarter. He's 6'4", 225, by the way. We're right hand ball behind our back right here. I don't know if y'all can see that.
It's Aaron Murray-ish.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, it almost reminds me of Matt Ryan was the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The ball fakes and the dekes that he would do with the ball. I once saw Matt Ryan on a toss sweep action, fake the ball in the air like that, and then catch it and throw a screen on the backside. It was nuts.
It's insane.
And a full stretch toss, too.
Oh, yeah.
It was sexy. Now.
You will not be doing this.
Yeah, no. Especially what happens.
Nah, it will not be happening.
Yeah, one of these at the end, he absolutely murders Timmy. But anyways, you're right. That stuff, I don't think it's going to happen. Now, I don't think this is like some elite twitchy runner. Now, I've seen some people, he's good enough to extend. He is Matt Stafford as an athlete to me, you know? Like, Matt's a good athlete. He can make things happen on the NFL level. He can run away from defensive ends.
Especially in his younger years.
Yeah, he ain't going to outrun a secondary defender or a second-level defender.
No.
I don't think this guy is either, but he's good enough to get away from big, fat defensive linemen. I saw some folks today talking about him being akin to Stetson as a runner, and I'm like, I don't want this dude running. I want this dude doing this shit. No. This right here is goofy.
You want him extending.
Yes. Like, we don't even have to do the Stafford comp for the millionth time. He's Joe Burrow, the athlete, right? Burrow's like a 4'7" guy, 4'7", 5" guy. Good enough, but not like some 4'5" guy.
It's an interesting fake.
Yeah. I mean, it is as big of an arm as we've probably ever seen on the high school trail recently.
It's a great throw.
Got some touch on it.
All right, so this is him against Prince Avenue. And, boys, this sophomore game against Prince Avenue, they got tatted up pretty good, okay? I think he threw 4 interceptions. I think they lost by 30, okay? This was by far and away the best football team he played against, and you can tell by the pressure that he goes under right here. Watch this. Watch this offensive line get flat out crumbled, okay?
Jesus.
All right, that's – it's going to be a transition from a level of competition
and
standpoint.
again, let's also give him the benefit of the doubt here. This kid's 16 in this video.
Yes, 16 here. And it's a good point, Curb, because I think we've added an inch and we've gained 10 pounds since this tape.
Oh, fumbled the snap.
Don't worry about it. We're going to make something shake.
This will not happen.
He'd be running out of bounds.
He'd have been sacked.
This is not. Watch this. We run over a guy late here, I think. Doink. Yeah, we're just
Not
bouncing off
not
dudes.
happening. That's a Johnny Manziel football play.
Yeah.
That was screw it. Mike Evans is down there somewhere.
A lot of fake tunnel screens for these guys.
Yeah, a lot of screening goes.
What
here.
we call foxes on this network.
Come on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I mean, come on.
The throws are nice, though.
Oh, the throws are insane. I'm telling you, he's the best thrower of the football we've seen on this network in a while. I'm good. Y'all good on that?
Yep.
The
Pull up
arms-
Mr. Stafford's tape. Now, the difference between Matt's tape and this tape, there wasn't a 300-pounder on that field. I would just venture to say we're going to see several of them on this
This is
tape.
Texas high school football.
Yeah,
I
would
don't
venture
remember
to
what,
say we're going to see some dudes on this one.
Now this is all field level tape. So.
Oh, okay. So this is sideline angles.
Yeah,
type
this
stuff?
is. I mean, this is.
This is somebody else's work that we're stealing right here.
We're going on 20 years of high school.
Holy chooch! Now, I will say this: Matt has completely revamped his throwing motion since then. If we can't see his lower body, but I guarantee you he's overstriding right here. He is not as rotate. He's standing on it like this, really ripping down. Okay, these guys nowadays, Curtis included, they are very rotational. They're going to keep their front half condensed. Okay, they're never going to overstride. They're going to be nice and in their platform, and they're going to spin and keep their lower half on the ground. They're not going to lean on their left foot. They're going to balance that energy. Okay.
Just a disgusting uniform combo, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
But I mean, it looks like Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. I mean, that was the same steez he rocked all the way through his years in Detroit, too, until he got a speed flex out there with the Rams.
Yep.
Rock the old Rydell, the Rydell speed. Yeah. All right. See, that looks like the Curtis tape that we just watched.
Oh, the side.
Oh, my God. How did he get the ball to a ball carrier?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
That's a dot.
That's a catch, too.
That was a nice catch. You're right. Can't even see that ball.
No.
That thing was fuzzed. Oh, good play fake. Scramble. Ugh.
Just flicks it.
Yeah, big mitts on this dude, too. Will you combine hand measurement?
Yeah.
Me on Matthew Stafford? I'm guessing 10 plus on that guy. Those are
For
big
sure.
mitts. Yeah, I mean, I get the comp. I could see it. I definitely could see it.
It's also just impressive to watch high school tape that is literally 20 years old and go, he hasn't changed that much as a player from a Matthew Stafford standpoint. Yeah, the throwing motions have changed a little bit, but his game has not necessarily changed that much.
10-inch hands.
Some of these guys, you can just see it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they hold the ball, the way that they pump fake balls, you can just see big mitts on dudes.
The big mitts. All right, so we've kind of delved into how Jared Curtis affects the Georgia roster. We've nailed the Jared Curtis takes and all the tape watching it, but we kind of touched on something last week and we weren't able to finish. But there's a SEC media member that believes that despite Georgia winning the SEC championship last year, that the league now runs through Texas. And I don't know if you have the article still up, John.
I don't. I can probably find it.
But
we wrote an article on it.
Chris Doering talked about how last week he was on a SiriusXM show that he believes that the steps that we have seen Georgia take the last year, the regressions that we saw in their gameplay, and the way that we saw them lose games, not just the amount of games they lost, but the way they lost them, he fully believes that the SEC now runs through Texas and it does not run through Georgia.
And this is the quote that he gave, and then I'll kind of pinpoint the issues that I have with it at least. We are seeing things that we haven't seen from Georgia before. We're seeing the inability to retain a roster, Doering said. They were one of the last schools to be able to keep their team in place and have the kind of depth that you have to win championships the way Alabama did, the way that Georgia did. We're seeing things from Georgia where they go and get manhandled by Ole Miss the way they did. We're seeing them get physically beaten the way they did by Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. These are things that are signs of concern, and knowing what the landscape of college football is now, we don't know if it can sustain in this type of environment. The first question that I would have for Doering is, I don't know where this comment is coming from about Georgia not being able to retain a roster. Like, I know that every school goes through departures in the transfer portal, and you might lose a guy here and there that you were kind of expecting to be on your roster. But as we have mentioned on this show before, if Georgia wants to keep you, they're likely going to keep you, even if you do say you're going to enter the portal. I mean, we saw 2 defensive backs last year enter the transfer portal, and then Georgia ultimately ended up keeping them. Nitro Tuggle ultimately ended up entering the transfer portal, but came back to Georgia. I know that Damon Wilson was a guy that Georgia, by all means, was hoping to keep, but there's examples of that every class, it feels like.
Also, I like Doering, okay? I like Peter, who doubled down even worse than what I think Doering did because of the facts. The whole failed to keep their roster together longer than everybody. Dude, they played into the season longer than all but 5 football teams. What are we doing there?
Yeah. I was just kind of confused at that angle of, I feel like Georgia still retains a lot of their roster better than anybody in college football right now.
So I have 2 problems with this, and along with everything you said. One, this is exactly what some members of the media did to Alabama in 2014. Alabama lost to Ole Miss in an embarrassing fashion, despite it was a good Ole Miss team. Week later, barely beat Arkansas, and then obviously we saw what happened in the Ohio State game, in the playoff game. It was Nick Saban's done. He's lost his edge. Alabama's on the downhill slope. They haven't won a national title in 2 years. This is the longest drought they've had since Nick Saban got there. Yada, 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 yada. And what happened? Alabama went on to have another 8 or 9 more years of dominance there. The other problem I have with that is everyone in the college football space, including us, coaches have said this, that it is so much harder to win a college football game and win consistently than it was 2 or 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And everyone nods their head in agreement with that and goes, yes, I completely agree. Look at the schedule, look at the transfer portal, look at the way conference alignment has shaped things. But then we go, well, this team's not winning like they were 3 years ago. This team's not dominating like we saw teams dominate 5 years ago. And it's so conflicting to the point where it doesn't make sense to me, where you can on one hand say, yeah, it's much harder to win in the SEC. Yeah, it's much harder to retain rosters in the SEC. And then say, I'm really worried about Georgia because they're not winning games like they used to and they're not retaining their roster like they used to. Well, no shit. You just talked about how the college football has changed.
Chat's hitting on 3 names here, and I think all 3 names are not excusable, but they're explainable, right? They're talking about A.D. Mitchell, okay? From my understanding of the A.D. Mitchell situation, A.D. Mitchell came to Georgia and basically said, here's what Texas is offering. Georgia said, okay, we'll give you close to that. We'll keep you happy, but if you want to come back to Georgia under that price tag that you're now asking for, okay, well, you're going to have to start practicing on Tuesdays. You're going to have to start, really, really going to workouts and doing what you're supposed to do and not, oh, I'm a star receiver, so I don't have to do this today. I don't have to – my hamstring hurts. None of that. You're going to have to show up and be a leader of this football program. We'll pay you what they want to pay you. And he just said, I'll go to Texas. And I don't know if you guys recall – I'm not saying this was the situation, but there was a first-round grade on A.D. Mitchell that ended up going late second, early third, did it not? Mm-hmm. Some of this stuff comes back. There was another name mentioned there, Damon Wilson. I was told from a very trustworthy source that Damon Wilson was under verbal contract in January. They were under the impressions that kid was coming back. Then all of a sudden, Missouri wants to pay you what they want. Okay, go. That's fine. I'm sure they wanted him. They needed him. God knows they needed him. They went into the transfer portal for Elo Medozi this year because they needed a defensive end body. They absolutely had to have him. But for reasonable cost. They know what 2026's recruiting class was going to cost them. Guess who doesn't have a top 5 recruiting class right now? Missouri. Why? Because Missouri needed to go have transfer portal guys because they got to win right now. So there's a lot of I think there was another one in there, Justice Terry. We talked about him in the National Hour. They went to the extent that they needed to go to, and then Texas blew everybody out of the water, and it was like, cool. Have fun in Austin. He's going to be a great player in Austin, by the way. He's going to be great.
Yeah.
My number 1 defensive tackle in the country coming out last year. But some of these things are just, they're not like Georgia doesn't want to spend. It's like all of them are situationally based, right? Same thing with the Bear Alexander situation.
Yeah, so the retending a roster comment was a little odd to me. And then also what you were getting at, what Peter Burns also mentioned in this, is that Texas being the new powerhouse of the conference. And the reason why I don't think that's fair to say at all is, first off, Georgia beat them twice last year. They beat them once at their place on the road, and then they doubled down and beat them in the SEC championship game with a backup quarterback, mind you. So that's 0-2 in one season. I mean, this would be essentially as laughable as Georgia following the 2021 season. Let's say Georgia doesn't win the national title that year. They lose to Bama in the SEC championship game. They still make the playoff, and then they lose in the first round or they lose the national title game. That'd be as foolish as Georgia fans leaving that season and saying, well, Georgia's the powerhouse in the SEC now, despite the fact that they're 0 against Alabama over the last 5 years or whatever it is. That's not how these things work. That's never how we've judged college football teams or judged two programs. We have evidence of these two programs matching up against one another, recent evidence, and by all means, the team that just won the conference title is set up to be successful this year. There's just no evidence for us to just all of a sudden say like, Georgia, not going to be it this year. No longer the standard in the SEC. It's the Texas Longhorns. I know Texas made a deeper run in the playoff, but if a team goes 0-2 against the other and both teams are still expected to be great this season, I just think that's a little unfair to the other.
It's a dramatization of two things. People are really, really over-dramatizing the fact that Georgia lost 3 games last season. And this is not what Georgia just went 3 years straight without losing a regular season game. They could have been a playoff team all 3 of those years. Could have won the national title all 3 of those years. This is unlike anything we've ever seen. The downfall of Georgia has started, and you can of course tie back all the off-field issues that they've had since then, and the quote-unquote roster retention problems. And then on the other hand, it's Texas. They made it to the SEC, went to the SEC championship their first year. They've beaten Alabama within the last 2 seasons. They have Arch freaking Manning. They're the powerhouse. I think it's two people like looking at the surface of two things and going, oh, here's one team that had their day in the sun and is now on the decline, as opposed to a team that is new and is fresh and is fun to watch. They're on the up and up, and they are the new powerhouse. I don't – obviously it's not true, and if you deep dive into it, it's not. But
All that being said, on paper, who's a better football team today, Texas or Georgia?
Well, everybody, it would be Texas because there's a lot more faith in the quarterback right now. I think that's all that would be. The conversation would be of, well, Texas has Arch Manning, and that is true. And Arch Manning is a great quarterback, and we've seen only 2 games really of Gunnar Stockton so far at Georgia.
But the 2 games of Arch are considerably more promising than the 2 games of Gunnar.
Sure, and by all accounts, that's how everybody's kind of viewed those two. But it also just doesn't boil down to the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, how many times has Georgia had a better roster than Alabama on paper and lost? I think you could argue that Texas had a better roster than Georgia on paper both times last year when they played them and lost.
Definitely.
So.
No one in Georgia expected Georgia to beat Texas. Pretty sure every Georgia fan picked Georgia to beat Texas. I think the only people thinking Texas was going to beat Georgia last year was national media that, kind of just let off this segment.
Yeah.
Ironically enough.
Even Kirby Smart felt the need to throw some shots at that one.
Yeah.
That was an all-time post-game ripper right there. Where are we going next? Where do we want to go next?
Do you want to spin the wheel, Brooks?
I mean, we can spin the wheel. I'd rather talk about my recruiting trips today.
Let's talk about the recruiting trips.
So what haven't we recapped? Oh, I haven't talked about Winder Barrow yet, have I?
No, you have not.
Giovanni Tuggle, a 2028 soon-to-be superstar. Honestly, I don't want to put this on the kid. I really don't, because he's way too young to be doing this to him. That kid moves like Malachi Starks. I don't know if he's going to play like Malachi Starks, but that kid has I'm a big movement patterns guy. Mm-hmm. You know this about me. If you run fast, that's great, but do you run fast and look athletic doing so? This kid does. I also want to say this about Winder Barrow. I've been to 10 high school practices at this point in the spring. I will go to 3 tomorrow. I will finish the spring having seen at least 40 high schools. Saw 52 last year, saw 45 the year before. I've seen a shit ton of high schools practices at this point. I ain't seen that many reps. Winder Barrow must have taken 60 team reps the last Friday when I was out there. Real high energy, huh?
Both sides of the ball, or?
Yeah, I'm just good on good. Offense on defense. 1 2-way starter. Kid's got a bunch of mid-major offers, but I was obviously there to see Giovanni Tuggle and the rest of his teammates. But, man, that kid is going to be something special. Can't wait to see how that one progresses. Let's roll into today's observations. Started today at Grayson High School, 2:30 practice. Got there about 2 o'clock, hanging out with my boy Santavius Bryant. Shout out to Shorter University and my boy Greg Carswell, former teammates of mine, now state championship winning head coach and defensive coordinator over there. I said this to Kylan Fox, who is a tight end down there at UCF, was back in the Grayson area today. I like the young man. I always talk to him, always have a good time when I'm around him. And I was like, man, that Tyler Atkinson's freaking crazy. And we were having a conversation about Tyler, and I told him this, and I told the Oregon inside linebackers coach that was there today, because he was asking my opinions about Tyler. And I said, Tyler is the only 5-star I've ever covered that every single time I've seen him, from when he was 13 years old until today, he has gotten a percentage better every single time. He never, ever fails to improve every single time I've seen him. And I've seen him 300 times at this point in the recruitment process. So I have no doubts in my mind that wherever Tyler ends up, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Oregon, whether it's Texas, whether it's Ohio State, that sumbitch is going to be so damn good. It's going to be ridiculous. The only thing about Tyler that I look at and say, well, my only question, is he only going to be 6'2", 230 pounds? Is he not going to be 6'4", 230? You know what I mean? Like, that's it. That's all I got. Is he not going to be 6'4"? Dang. You know what I mean?
What a shame.
I think he'll be okay.
All right, so you've been to 10, 11, 11?
And I'm not done on today. Grayson also has, I got a comp for you. Remember how much I love Troy Fontenot out of Washington?
Yeah.
The athletic tackle? I got the next one. His name's KD Jones. Okay, he's a left tackle right now at Grayson High School. He's a 2027 kid. I don't know where the big-time O's are. I don't know where they're at. They need to start flowing in. This kid is a freak. He's got tremendous athletic traits. Now, I understand he's only 6'4". He's only 290 pounds. I don't give a shit. I think he's going to be so good. I think he's going to be so good. I sent him off to several SEC coaches today. They should know about him already, but they need to get to this kid and see this guy. He's an extremely good athlete.
Is that 6'4", 290 I can put on another 30 and 2 inches of height, or has he kind of topped out?
I don't know. That question right there, I got to see mama and daddy to answer that one fully. That's when I see a kid as a junior and I don't know much about, first thing I ask is, hey, what's mom and daddy look like? Because if mom and daddy are 5'9", he's probably topped out. If daddy's 6'5", and mama's, 5'8", we might have a chance. I just don't know. I haven't gotten that. It's the first time I'd seen the kid today, and I was tremendously impressed. They got 2 defensive tackles out there. If you're a Division I football coach and haven't been by Grayson, you're an idiot. You're probably going to get fired anyways. So there's that. Then went after that to up to Buford, about a 40-minute haul. Would have been about a 35-minute drive had it not been for shitloads of traffic. But got up to Buford today, watched them practice for an hour and a half, and I found me another mouth breather. Georgia already found him, but I like Graham Houston. I didn't think I was going to like Graham Houston that much. I like Graham Houston. I like the idea that there is an in-state kid that's probably relatively, not going to say cheap, but he's probably affordable. I think is the right word here. Graham Houston, affordable. Meanwhile, we're pursuing the Jackson Canwell thing that we know is really, really expensive. But if we can get like 3 or 4 of these in-state mouth breathers, I'm all for it. This kid has to be pulled off. You know what I mean? We got to blow the whistle. Hey, like, I'm going to have to walk out to practice and tell coach, hey, make sure we're blowing the whistle extra long today because Graham Houston might kill our backup defensive tackle when we don't have the ones in. Like that's the type of kid that they got from Graham Houston.
I like it.
That's a good attitude.
And I liked the tape. I love the in-person eval. Not bad way to say it's 100% a guard projection. I don't think there's a tackle in that body, but I like it. I was telling you guys before the show, he looks like a 1990s Disney movie villain. That's what he looks
Gaston.
Like the high school blonde kid that's got the chin strap working with the buzz cut. That's what this kid's rocking. And he don't say shit. He just hits. That's it.
And especially for this class too, like to find a Graham Houston, and he is just he plays through the whistle. He loves football. He plays extra hard. Like that checks all the boxes that you would want a prospect, an offensive line prospect that is affordable in the state of Georgia. You'll sign up for that every time.
Sounds a lot like he has passion, fire, maybe a little bit of energy to him.
Yeah, he's definitely got FPE. A little fire, passion, and energy. I once heard an offensive line coach who shall not be named tell me, if the kid don't go down and touch his teammates when they score, I don't want him. This is a touch teammate when they score type guy. This is a sprint after the ball type guy. And 6'5", 310 pounds. So it all checks out. I like it.
So you've been – is that all you have, or do you have more notes?
Yeah, I mean, I like Bryce Perry-Wright from Buford as well. The 2027 and 2028 class at Buford's insane. That's going to be one to really, really hang out. 2026 is really, really good too, but I think they're really, really big-time players in that 27 and 28 class. There's a 2029 wide receiver, so he's not even in high school yet. There's a 2029 high school wide receiver at Buford that is currently running 22 flat in the 200, which, just for reference, Malachi Starks was a 21.47 guy. It's like a half second off from one of the greatest athletes that Georgia's ever signed. And I think he's running a 50-second flat 400 as an 8th grader. And he's already 6'3".
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, he's going to be a freak. So, yeah, tomorrow we got Hateville, we got Sandy Creek, and we might swing by Westlake as well. So, big time time to be out on the recruiting trail right about now.
So out of the 10 schools, which one have you been most impressed with, like the way they run their program, the way that they coach?
Look, I don't want to – this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment considering it's the first time I've ever been there, but I did not expect Winder Barrow to be like that. I mean, dude, for example, I spent my time with all these college programs this spring, right?
Right.
And one thing I noticed was they have day-to-day production stats on practice. So there's an assistant sitting over there during practice, and if a player gets a QB pressure, the defensive line coach will turn around to his assistant and say, hey, 93 QB pressure, right? And they'll rack up the stats. I go to Winder Barrow. It's the only high school I've seen counting practice stats in the 5 years that I've done this. You know, position coach is standing there, and there's a young girl standing back there, and he's like, hey, number 12 PBU, number 23 interception, right? And we're counting high school stats, not only on top of the organizational structure of the practice, how quickly they move, no wasted time, all that good stuff. There are some practices, man, I go to where it's just not that way. And some coaches will say it's only because we only have 40 guys out here. Bullshit. Go watch Jones County last year was this way for me. Jones County has 35 guys out there practicing, it seemed like. Or at least 35 guys that mattered because they're the only damn dudes that took reps. And them some bitches was getting after it for 2 hours, in and out. So, like, it's just – I enjoy every year going out and doing this because I do learn more about just how quality overall the football is in the state of Georgia. And I think that's why it's so over-recruited. And it is over-recruited. There are kids that get offers in this state that otherwise would not. You know, there are kids that go to some of these schools that I go to that have Power 5 offers that I go, you know, to a same-size school in Alabama or Tennessee, and that same exact caliber of football player is going to end up at App State. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This state gets over-recruited because of how much the football matters and how good the football is down here. So
I believe it. Do you want to spin the wheel, or do you want to talk about how Georgia was overrated in lucky in 2024?
Yeah, I just don't understand how you can be lucky when you have as much injuries and drops of balls that they have. But, yeah, tell me this spin. I'd be excited to hear this.
All right, so Bill Connolly wrote an article and analyzed, had a bunch of key metrics that he used to come to the conclusion that Georgia was lucky in a couple of facets. And the main one I have a problem with was expected turnover rates. So, one, do you know how expected turnovers are measured?
I would hope that is someone actually going through the film and counting dropped interceptions.
Maybe, or intercept. Is it interceptions that are called back as a penalty? Is it plays
maybe
like that?
That too?
Is it, a fumble where it's was he down, was he not? That goes into your expected.
Surely it's not like I think this safety should have made this play.
Or the ball just happened to bounce back to this player.
What is it?
I don't know. That's why I was asking you.
He didn't explain it?
I looked it up. He didn't really explain. Expected turnover margin was the baseline stat. Georgia expected to have a expected turnover margin of -6.9 last year. Nice. They had a turnover margin of -1. So technically they were almost 6 turnovers less than what they had, which ranked 13th highest out of all college football teams. So Georgia was considered statistically very, quote-unquote, lucky in their turnover margin. Second stat was close games. Georgia was 3-1 in one-score games, obviously, last year, with the biggest one being the 8-overtime bonanza against Georgia Tech. Games like that where you have a considered record of that, where their expected record, I believe, was 2-2. So they got lucky in that metric. Bill Connolly also goes and touches on the fact that Georgia was not lucky in the injury department this year and talked about how it was a testament to the fact that they were able to win an SEC championship and go to the college football playoff despite being extremely banged up at the offensive line position. They lost a quarterback in the conference championship. So all of those things was a testament to Georgia, but he finishes it with, they of course did enjoy a lot of turnovers and luck in the turnover department. So by this metric, Georgia was really lucky, statistically speaking, in the 2024 season because A, they had lower turnover ratio than was expected, and B, they won their close games.
I still don't get the expected turnover margin.
It sounds like to me is that we've taken these ridiculous stats that have entered the baseball space of expected batting average and all these other things, and now we're trying to implement it into football. Stay away. Keep them out of football. Now, I know that Bill Connolly is one of these stat guys.
Nerds already ruined basketball, okay? I can't even watch basketball without seeing 75 three-pointers shot up because math. To hell with math.
I mean, yeah, I agree. So
damn nerds.
When you're throwing around numbers like expected turnover rate, look, you either turn the ball over or you didn't, okay? Like that's just how the game works. Sometimes like the ball bounces your way or not.
Let me find one of them rec spec wearing nerds.
What I would also say, though, is I think you can also admit this, that part of the reason that Georgia did get in the SEC championship game, partially due to a little bit of luck. Now, some of it luck, some of it not. Like Alabama getting boat raced by Oklahoma to allow you partially to get into the SEC championship game, that was completely unexpected. Like, especially in the fashion that it happened.
And A&M blowing up at Auburn.
When it was coming down to the end of the season, it was more – the talk around Georgia was – what seed are they going to be? None of it was, all right, let's talk about the SEC championship game because we feel like Georgia's going to be there. It felt like that ship had sailed. So, like, that part, okay, if you want to say that was like – but what Brooks was getting on before we even started the segment, like, if anything, I think most people would say that Georgia was a very unlucky team last year. The fact that your quarterback that was protective of the football last year and all these other things was a great processor, as a spurt of turning the ball over at a ridiculously high rate. The drops that you had at wide receiver.
Let's not to mention him blowing his damn elbow out in the middle of the damn SEC championship game. Let's not talk about that.
But it was luck that Gunnar Stockton still won the game.
Yeah, let's not talk about having the damn hardest schedule in the Georgia's history. Let's not talk about that.
I think the main problem I have with this entire thing is luck is such a vague, nuanced term that you can't really, like, what is luck?
Football luck to me is injuries. How healthy do you stay is pure
Football
luck.
I mean, there's
all the other, no, to me, man, that stuff's up and down. I know the luck is up and down, but like turnover margins, stuff like that, so up and down every year. But even so, like the way a ball bounces, yes.
or the way a ref calls a penalty, things like that. That's all luck that you can't really put into a statistical measurement and say, okay, here's the rankings for which team was luckiest and which team was unluckiest, which is what I feel like Bill Connolly's trying to do in this article.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciate the work he did because it's a really, like, in-depth piece and gives a bunch of data.
No, yeah, Bill does good work. I just think that's a weird way to do it.
Sounds like the in-depth work was done by a turnover percentage stat machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's also the expected record for close one-score games and all these things.
So, wait a minute. Winning one-score games is lucky?
Well, he goes into a paragraph about how Alabama outrushed, outgained, outperformed in the red zone against Vanderbilt last season and still lost that game.
Because they got their ass beat on third down.
They gave up explosives.
Because they had two turnovers was his citing of that. They had two unfortunate turnovers, one that resulted in a touchdown.
Vandy had one in that football game. The turnover margin wasn't that drastic. The difference in that football game was Alabama was 6 for 19 on third down, and Vandy was 12 for 19 and won the explosives back.
I agree. But, you know, his metric for this was...
I'm not arguing with you. I'm arguing with the purpose
I
of the
totally
article,
get that.
by the way. I just want that known.
No, you're good. It's interesting that, you know, turnovers are kind of this ambiguous, shit happens type thing where you have to work to make a turnover happen. It's not just like in the middle of a game someone goes, oh shit, a turnover. All right, give the ball to the other team now. Like, you have to work to earn that. Like, he references how the first pick six that Jalen Miller threw in that game was the ball was bad at the line. That's, in his mind, in his metrics, an unlucky play. Well, the defensive lineman jumping up and doing his job to bat the ball, the linebacker then catching the ball, returning it for a touchdown. There's skill that goes into that. There's work that goes into that. It's not a, quote, lucky play.
It's an unlucky interception for Jalen Milroe, but I wouldn't say it's like
I think the problem is luck is too ambiguous of a term to throw
to ever put a metric on it.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The idea that we're putting stats on luck That's not how luck works. It's not determinative. Like, you can't say, oh, this has happened, all the history of data. Here's what luck says, so we can predict luck next. No, that's not how that works.
That's why casinos always make money.
Yeah.
You want to talk about what luck is? It's Auburn in 2013. Like, if you want to talk about a lucky college football team, that's the definition of it right there.
They had 3 NFL players, and somehow all 3 of them stayed healthy all year long.
Forget that. They had 2 games where they very well could have lost.
That too. All that stupid luck, right? The we stayed healthy thing to me is even more of like, you're really just throwing your cards out there hoping you don't get bit.
Then you get to the SEC championship and it's Trey Mason going, I think I'll rush for 350 yards today. Like, that's luck.
You know what? I'm going to play good today.
Yeah, like, what the hell? I'm going to break the SEC championship rushing record today.
Let's spin it a couple times, shall we?
Boys, I am sore.
From what?
Don't worry about it.
Oh.
I don't. All right, yeah. Okay, not
Definitely
worried
want
about
to cut that conversation.
Not worrying about that. Ooh, are we getting named that bulldog?
Oh, it looks like it.
Brooks,
What
I
are we
would be
naming?
shocked
Name
if
that
you get
bulldog.
This one. All right, so this is a newer segment to the wheel where I'm going to give you 5 hints.
Can I participate or no?
Yeah, you can participate. I honestly need you to participate in this one. All right,
He
so this
really
bulldog,
doesn't think I'm getting this.
I'd be shocked if you did.
Okay, come on.
This bulldog was a former walk-on who played wide receiver. He played during the Aaron Murray era, so 2010 to 2013. He's best known for making a crucial third down conversion in the 2014 Georgia-Florida game. Do we have any guesses yet?
A crucial error.
Crucial third down conversion.
Oh, okay. And this is a wide receiver.
All right, so this is a white guy.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if this next. He wore number 27.
Oh, no.
Oh, I could see his name.
I don't have his name.
Is
Do you know?
He had long black hair. I know that.
The final hint is he had luscious red hair.
Yeah.
Oh,
long
was
hair.
his last name Rhett?
His first name was Rhett.
Hudson?
Rhett McCown.
You're on it.
Golly, I could
Justin
see the name on the back of his jersey. I know his first name was Rhett though.
It's Rhett McGowan.
Oh,
Rhett McGowan.
dang.
I bet Rhett McGowan got a hella insurance business right about now. What's Rhett McGowan doing?
I have no clue, but
Let's get him on the show. Book him. Hey, Booker, guest Booker, get Rhett McGowan on the show.
the quintessential just Mark Rick example of just dreams do come true, man.
Speaking of guest bookers, I reached out to Todd McShay prior to the draft, and I was like, hey, man, we follow each other on social media. I was like, hey, man, you think you might want to come on? He's like, yeah, just have your booker reach out to my booker. And I was like, sure, I'll get right on that.
So
I got a guest booker.
So I got to call Todd McShay now?
Yeah.
Shit.
I can play another role.
Okay.
Hey, this is Brooks' guest booker.
This is Jonathan Williams of the Film Guy Network.
And please make it quick. I'm very busy today. Let's just say you are not my first phone call today. I can either slide you in on Thursday at 8 o'clock or maybe get you on Monday at the 9 o'clock slot.
Ooh, Wednesday's looking kind of tight.
But I'm kind of hoping to get a call back from this person. So really, you might want to make a decision now.
Honestly, you're our second choice, but if you guarantee us now, we might slide you in.
All right. Would you rather, as a Georgia fan, would you rather watch Carson Beck win the Heisman this year, or you are guaranteed to lose to a team that you're favored by 10 points against this year? So like a catastrophic upset, like you lose to a Kentucky, you lose to Marshall maybe,
Let Carson win the Heisman.
or you have to go watch Carson Beck win the Heisman after you kind of shit on him all 2024 and.
This is easy for me because as much crap as that guy gets, I still remember Carson Beck as a guy that elected to stay on Georgia's roster and wait as long as he did. And I still think that persistence and that patience from him should be rewarded. And so I hope that he does get some type of revival in his career and he is able to go in the first round of the NFL draft.
Let's not talk about the guy like he's homeless without a job.
No, I'm not. But I'm just saying.
Resurgence of his
I
career.
do. I
but
do
like,
think
that's
though.
kind of what he would feel like.
Let's
I mean,
take
if he
into
won the Heisman, maybe.
let's take into account
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
Let's take into account, though, God forbid Gunnar Stockton doesn't throw for 3,500 yards and this happens.
Yeah.
And the narrative around Kirby Smart automatically becomes, we let a Heisman winner walk so we could have Gunnar Stockton. Kirby
Shut the
Smart
hell up. We just paid $2 million for a spot.
Kirby Smart doesn't know how to develop quarterbacks. He did this with JT Daniels. He did this with Justin Fields. Like, if Carson Beck wins a Heisman on Miami, Georgia fans are going to be pissed. For as glad as they were to watch him leave.
I mean, Jared Curtis might decommit.
Oh, God. Don't wish that upon us.
I like it one more. Let's do it one more.
One more spin.
Un mas. Oh, is that the Stafford nostalgia tape?
That is a Stafford
All right,
nostalgia
we'll spin it
tape.
again. We'll spin it again. Actually, just give me the trivia. To hell with the wheel. I'm demanding trivia.
All right. Who led the Georgia Bulldogs in receiving during the 2020 season?
Kyrus Jackson.
You were correct, Jay. That was very quick.
I was going to go 15.
Lawrence Cager, he was
yeah.
not on the team by then.
Ah.
He had gone to greener pastures.
Literally the Jets. Kyrus Jackson led the team in receiving that year with like 600 yards, didn't he?
514 in a 10-game season. Like, Kyrus Jackson.
And like 20% of it came in the Auburn game.
Didn't he just re-sign with the Titans?
I don't
yeah.
believe it was with the
He's still
Titans.
in the league.
Oh, no, yeah, it's not with the Titans, but
was
it's with
not
the
with the-
NFL
he's on a
organization.
roster,
Yeah,
though?
was it with the Jags, maybe?
I was either that or the Colts, I want to say.
He's still on a roster, though.
He's a
So.
program guy right
Or
there.
no, the Texans. It was Houston Texans.
Yeah, it's one of those teams that could always use a solid receiver because they're pretty shitty.
I think we're good. That'd be everything.
That'd be everything. Cantwell's going to get interesting. Price going up, but maybe coming back down now.
Do you see that this kind of getting the same attention around the Jarrett where it's like, oh, it's so much money, we don't want this? Or is it going to be like, screw it, sign him?
He's 6'7", 335 pounds and runs 5 flat, benches 485. And vertical jumps 32 inches.
I mean, you don't have to convince me.
No, I know.
I'm more saying for the
by
fact
way,
that,
like, I think the kid's going to be a really, really good right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I would not pay what I heard today.
Yeah, I'm
with
just
the
like-
asking price.
and again, you have to imagine the number you heard is going to get out at some point. And
The
Georgia,
direct quote, I mean, I put it out today on Patreon, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Let's see here. I'll tell you the exact quote I got because I express my concerns, which I always do. If there's something that I don't necessarily agree with, like making this guy the second highest paid player in the class, which is what's projected right about now. Let's see here. He said, they have a saying around the building, you never overpay for a good player. They think this kid's guaranteed to be a really good player.
so they're buying the
okay.
floor essentially.
They're buying the floor. That's exactly what they're paying for.
Okay.
They're going to buy the floor on this kid. And look, it's not my room. It's not my money. So go do what you want. But that's ceiling money, what he's asking for.
Yeah.
That's high floor and high ceiling money. I think he's got a pretty high ceiling, but he ain't got – this is the way I explain it to people. Because some guys don't understand. They can't look at Cantwell, and when I tell you that he's 6'7", 335 and runs 5 flat and jumps 32 inches, and I tell you I don't think the guy's a premium athlete, you're going to say, what in the hell are you talking about? This is the way I explained it to a Georgia source today. Jackson Cantwell tests like Lane Johnson and plays like Ben Cleveland.
Oh.
He tests like Lane Johnson and plays like Ben Cleveland. You know how Ben Cleveland's real elbowy, big belly out, kind of a lunch pail grunt worker, like real gritty, physical, in a box blocker. Mm-hmm. That's what Cantwell is to me. I've explained it to you this way, my hooper. Jackson Cantwell is the post-up barbecue chicken on the block type center, okay? Whereas that's a right tackle prospect. A left tackle prospect is the scoring power forward that can get loose 3-and-D type guy, right? There's two totally different types of athletes that are both 7-footers. I think he's the barbecue chicken on a block guy.
Okay.
That's okay. That's a right tackle, though. That ain't a left tackle, in my opinion.
So you don't see Georgia fans getting upset over the supposed amount that is surely going to be a
Look, most of the Georgia fans that I talk to that express concerns about the dollar amounts given out ain't the ones stroking the checks to get the kids there. So
this is also
not to
very
be that
true.
guy. I ain't looking at your money. Look, these guys don't. They're alumnus. They ain't out here giving money to the collective. I don't believe y'all out here giving
All
money.
my
to the
money
collective?
is in tuition, bro.
Yeah. So not to bag check you right quick, but most of the folks that I know that out here voicing their opinions ain't the ones that have to get called to front this here money. So I don't think they give a shit.
I fund the baseball and basketball programs.
Word?
Yeah.
Fund it with your attention?
Speaking of baseball,
I bless them with my love all around.
Biased media member Jay Will.
I might as
You're
well
welcome
shout
for
out
Charlie
baseball
Condon.
real quick.
Yeah,
They
shout
got
out
the number
baseball.
one team right now, dude.
They got rank one?
Multiple sites have ranked them number 1. D1 Baseball had them at number 6, but Baseball America and Perfect Game both have them as the number 1 team in the country.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I've watched way too much college baseball for my bandwidth's purposes over the last 3
college
months.
baseball's so slept on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say slept on. I think it's properly reported.
I don't think so. How many times have you sent a text message on a Saturday to me talking about, dude, are you watching the Tennessee baseball game right now?
Don't
Tony
expose me.
Vitello just went out there and
Don't
mother
expose
effed
me.
every like.
Don't
Come on,
expose me.
man.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie. The Tony Vitello strut through the infield Saturday was,
perfect.
aura. It was Sunday, but it was aura. When he looked at the umpire in midfield and said, it pantomimed like he was an umpire behind the plate pointing to a ball outside, I lost my shit. I don't know why, but I laughed so hard. Yeah, dude, they play like Tennessee baseball plays like if Kirby Smart were a baseball coach. That's the way that's how I feel like he would coach too.
I just think you get so many cool moments and unique moments in college baseball. Like, this is a far throwback in the early in the season, but like Brian Curley making funny faces at a base runner and then striking the guy out. You don't see that in the MLB.
And being 5'6", throwing 100 mile an hour.
That's normal.
That's kind of cool too.
Yeah, you don't see that either.
Yeah, it like you get more home runs. Like I think it's just more exciting. I don't know.
The pace of plays really, really ramped up too. I like that.
I think that I saw a stat the other day where only 11% of MLB games this year have gone over 3 hours, and like 4 years ago it was like 70% of games. Yeah. I love my Braves, but college baseball, man, I love it.
Miss me with that, dude. Oh my god. 3
Still
hours.
worried about those bats. Georgia bats and starting pitching. Bats got to stay consistent. And the starting pitching's got to find elite status.
As long as they don't have to play on the
Curry.
road, man, I think they're
Yes.
good.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is most of the SEC teams are falling out of that top 8 right now.
Yeah. Still set to host the regional round.
Yeah,
So
Georgia is,
that's-
but the rest of the SEC schools are kind of falling out. Like
Tennessee's
outside the
3
top
straight
8.
series losses for Tennessee.
Texas is falling outside of the top 8. LSU's on the fringe right about now. Florida is flirting with the fringe of hosting a super regional. So you might be one of the only SEC teams to be a super regional host if you get to that point.
Super regional second round.
I know.
Oh, okay.
But that top 8 seed means
I see
whether
what
or
you're
not
saying.
you're going to get a super regional
I see
at
what you're
home,
saying now.
right? That's what matters the most. I mean, all these SEC schools are going to get regionals.
Yeah.
They're going to host regionals. I'm talking about, are you going to be at home round 2, which is all that matters. If I get out of round 2, I'm going to Omaha.
Yep.
So that's all that really matters.
Yeah. Look at you shouting out Georgia baseball.
I mean,
Got to.
round ball knowers, these guys.
Yeah, dude.
Just not that bouncy one. Don't come around here with the
No.
bouncy.
Or the
opinions.
soccer one.
Well, you guys are allowed to talk about them. I'm not.
Or the soccer
Oh,
one.
yeah. I
dude.
forgot about that. Are you still banished?
Oh, I don't know. What was so funny is Georgia basketball fans were cooking me in my mentions while Georgia basketball administration, for the first time in 7 years covering this team, was giving me kudos on the phone, calling me, saying, hey, man, I appreciate you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Like, I don't even know who this number is, but awesome. Great to talk to you for the first time in 7 years. I'll go back to not talking about basketball now.
Georgia becoming an everything school. How about that?
Love it.
Shout out the equestrian team.
All right. I haven't done. Look, I don't want to blow up. I was gonna say we got some time here. We got 8 minutes left. Here's where I'm going this week. Okay. Got, like I said, Hapeville charter tomorrow. Sandy Creek and Westlake. Wednesday morning, I'm waking up 6:30 in the morning. Got to be in Carrollton to watch those guys practice. Then I'm going to Central Carrollton. Then I'm going to McEachern. Then I'm going to watch South Paulding practice. South Paulding's got a tackle that I'm very, very interested in seeing. Thursday, I'm going to Milton, Walton, and Kell, starting my morning out at Gainesville. Friday, I'm going to North Cobb and Sprayberry, starting my morning out at Cartersville High School. My God, that's going to be an early morning. Oh, my God. Pray for me on Friday. Oof. All right. Appreciate y'all for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way.